Well, hey, howdy, hey, everybody. How's it going? Oh, I hope y'all had a great weekend and are ready for Monday. I'm not ready for Monday. I mean, I am, but I'm going to be, this is going to be a busy week. So let's see who we got in here and say hi to people. We got Diane Marie. Hey, babe, good to see you. Coolest reviews. You can come up whenever you're ready. Dragonfly, I hope that the snow monster doesn't get you. Nadine, what up, boo boo? Hey, Kate. Good to see you guys. Hey, Heather, whatever. Hey, Corky. Good to see everybody. Yeah, so this week's going to be busy. All right. So, um, we've got the continuation of the Murdoch trial, and we're going to have trials within a trial because the judge, which I think this is a good idea, he doesn't, want to waste any time, and they've sat the jury, and so this is kind of unexpected, with the financial stuff, but they're going to do 2 hours, I think, Monday. I don't know how many more witnesses the state intends to put on in this in-camera hearing. Um, but hey, LFT, good to see you, babe. Hold on just a second. Sorry, I had a little tickle in my throat. Okay, so I guess I didn't get it out. Absolutely, Diane. I give you an update. Give me just a second. So I don't know how many more witnesses the state intends to put on for the in-camera hearing to determine what witnesses will be allowed to testify, if any, and what they'll be allowed to testify to. But there is word that cousin Eddie will be testifying Wednesday, also slated to testify both for the prosecution and the defense is um, Randall Murdoch, which is Randy, his Alex's brother. So there's that. And then also, hey, Crystal, we have Aiden Fucci's trial starts Monday with jury selection. And given the fact that they only need to seat 6 jurors, I expect it to be pretty easygoing, pretty smooth sailing. I think the opening statements probably Wednesday, maybe Tuesday, but most likely Wednesday. So we're going to be busy. And as far as Olivia Chicky Nuggy Pot Pie, I have great news. Last Monday, she saw the transplant coordinator at the hospital, and they have decided that Olivia Chicky Nuggy Pot Pie Esquire at this time does not need a stem cell transplant. So they're going to give her a CAT scan, I think either at the end of this month or the beginning of next, to check her lungs again. For right now, there hasn't been any progression, and she is all stable on all of her meds. And so they don't want to rock the boat, which is great news. We definitely don't want any of that. Hey, Nonstop Mom. Hey, Amelia Sparkles. Good to see both of you guys. Hey, Tony. So yeah, I'm over the moon. I'm thrilled. I cannot thank you guys all enough. I know that it was your good juju, your prayers, your good vibes, the support that you showed financially, all of it. All of it I can't thank you enough for. Just from the bottom of my heart, from my family to yours. There's Coolest Reviews. Coolest, it says that your devices are not connected. So you'll need to go into your phone or your computer and give permissions in order for me to add you. It won't let me add you like that. Hopefully you can hear me. So, well, yes. So I'm super just over the moon, over the moon. So, okay. Um, so that's what's going on. And tonight we're going to be talking about Kai, the Hatchet Wielding Hitchhiker. As you guys know, at the beginning of January, Netflix released a 2 hour and some change, I think, documentary on his story. And I must confess that although I have watched the documentary more than once, I've watched it twice because you always miss stuff. And I am not exactly sure how I feel, to be quite frank. Um, I just feel like there's coolest reviews. Okay, I'm gonna add you to the stream. Hey, how you doing? You can turn your camera off if you want. You want me to? Let me see. I don't know how to. I don't remember how I do it. There you go. Okay, cool. Can you hear me? Because your mic's mute. Oh, it's unmuted. You should be good. Hey, Tammy's.
Oh, my personal mic is muted.
Yes, your personal.
Just give
mic.
me a second. You're doing
Okay.
wonderful. Just keep talking. I'll
Okay.
be there in a minute.
Okay, you do what you got to do. So it was, it was a good documentary. I just am not 100% sure that I know exactly. Usually I have like a very strong opinion. Usually when I've watched something, I can put things together and, I'll go look online and see what's what. And usually I'll have like a real strong opinion one way or the other. But with Kai, I'm struggling a little bit just because it's a little complex. And it's difficult because there isn't a whole lot out there about the case, the second case, not the first case. There's stuff. Hang on a second. Let me let Alice out. I don't know if you guys heard that. Please hold. Give me just 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. Hey, Momo. But there's a lot about the first case, which is hold on, let me look at my notes because I've been in such a Murdoch rabbit hole that now I've kind of forgotten all the stuff that I've learned about Kai. Let's see. So the gentleman that he is has been convicted of murdering is Joseph Galfy. Now we do know a lot about the first case, which his name was Jet McBride, and Kai has his own YouTube channel. And so basically he does his visitations, like he gets Zoom, I guess, or whatever the jail or the prison uses where he's at, and he get, it's video chatting. So it's recorded and it's uploaded to YouTube. And it's interesting because it's uploaded in like 3-4 minute clips. So if you want to like hear the whole story, you have to watch like 15 or 20 clips, which is fine. It's just that that's the way that they do it. Yeah, it's obviously not run by him because obviously he's, in prison, but somebody is running it, and he has a couple of support pages on Facebook as well. But they don't seem. I reached out to the one that is linked from the YouTube channel, and I never did get a response back. So yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not exactly sure like where his case stands. In 2022, he had he appealed at the federal level, and they denied his appeal. But I don't know where he goes from that. It's not all the way, it's not done. But I mean, even if Kai serves his full sentence, he'll still be younger than Joseph Galfy was when he died. And so, yeah, there's a lot of it's kind of hard to really to really get a sense of the case based on the Netflix documentary. To be quite frank, they are obviously limited on time. They can't put everything in, so they do their best. And truthfully, the Netflix documentary doesn't actually focus on the murder itself or his trial. What it really focuses on is the 90 days in between what happened with Jet McBride and then what happened with Joseph Galfy. That's what it really talks about. And the people that were around him at that time, and they speak about their experiences with Kai. And then at the very sort of end, I think 20, maybe 30 minutes are spent on the actual case itself. So it's kind of difficult to really get a sense of the situation. But before I get started, let me show you guys something really, really quick before I forget.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys don't remember or don't know or just have forgotten, basically what happened was with Kai is that he got into Jet McBride's vehicle, and back in 2015, I think it is. Let me look. Hold on. Let me look at my notes here. No, 2013. Okay. And Jet McBride left an intersection, and there were PG&E workers working on the side of the road. And what he did was he rammed into the back of their work truck, and he pinned one of the workers in between his vehicle and then the work truck. Okay. And then these two women, which were actually a mother and daughter, they ran over to try to help. And that's when Jet McBride turned to them. And that's when Kai got involved. And that's when the interview took place, where, he hit him with the blunt end of the hatchet. And the guy from the local news station was down there covering it and ended up interviewing Kai. Okay. And that's where that interview comes from. And it went viral, like immediately. And the thing about it is that people were wanting to talk to Kai, and Kai didn't want to talk to anybody. The only person who had Kai's contact information was the news reporter, Jessup Reisbeck is who interviewed him. He's the only one that had his contact information. So he was going to have, there were people that wanted to get him on a reality show. The people that did Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they wanted to get a hold of him. And so did, oh God, what is his name right now? Why are names terrible for me this week? It's just been so awful. God, what is his name? It's driving me nuts. Give me just a second. I'll find it. Jimmy Kimmel Live. That's what it was. They wanted to have Jimmy. Hey, Octavia. Jimmy Kimmel wanted to have him on, right? But nobody knew how to get a hold of this kid. And so what they did was they found Jessup's contact information, and they contacted Jessup. and Jessup ended up tracking Kai down, and they ended up at a diner, and Kai just was like, not, hey Max, just I'm ready whenever you are, Coolest Reviews. I thought you weren't. I thought you were still waiting. I thought I was still waiting on you. You never said anything, so I was just keeping up the show. Talk whenever you're ready and meet whenever you're ready. So anyway, they really, they all wanted him, right? But they couldn't get to him. So there you are. So they ended up.
Yep, I'm here.
So they end up, going through Jessup Riseback, right? And he tracks Kai down. They meet at like a diner or whatever, and Kai is deciding whether he's going to go do Jimmy Kimmel or go and smoke.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Yeah,
that was probably the funniest part right there.
It was. It's like he was completely.
And
unaware.
Lisa's like, "We'll bring you a limo full of weed if that's what you want." But
right.
I guess yeah.
Yeah.
But before we get into this, I'd just like to say that I'm CR, and it doesn't matter who you've cleaved in the head with a hatchet or who you violated in the Virgin Islands. You're lovable and you're worthwhile. And just picture me making the most douchey face possible. So
okay.
Yeah. So Kai taught me something, how to butter people up right before you go into your bullshit.
Right. That's important.
It is important. It's important in life. He taught us
very
important life lessons.
Yeah. So so they end up he flips a coin or a pencil, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, he spins a pencil. They said it was like a golfer's pencil, which for those of you who don't know, it's the most retarded 3-inch pencil that you can't sharpen properly and doesn't have an eraser. So
I can't say that word.
What?
The R word.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. But yeah, so he spins the pencil. Everybody knows I think people know it's a pencil you use like at putt-putt. They use them at golf and on golf carts too. So to keep score. So anyway, so he spins the pencil. He ends up going to Jimmy Kimmel. But wait a minute. I feel like I'm missing a part. Before they go to Jimmy Kimmel, they get him a hotel room. Didn't they? Or was that after?
Yeah.
I feel like he goes to the hotel.
That was before, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah. He goes to the hotel room. There's a mini bar. He just opens up a bottle of Jim Beam and just goes to town, like chugs it like it's a big gulp.
Jack Daniels. Jim Beam would have been way cooler.
It Jack Daniels? Yeah, Jack Daniels. So he drinks that.
I'm a big whiskey guy, so I'm super picky about it. So, F Kai. What a dumbass. Drinking Jack Daniels. Like overpriced crap is what it is. But that's just me. I'm a jerk. I admit it up front.
So he, but now he's drinking, and so he's, not all, he's probably drunker than Cooter Brand or getting there anyway, skating around on his board, then ends up peeing on the sidewalk, and he's just too rowdy. And so they're like, no, y'all got to get your stuff and dip. So they did. And anyway, long story short, they end up getting to Jimmy Kimmel. So they're at the studio, and Kai pees on the sign out front, right in Jimmy Kimmel's face, right? So Jimmy Kimmel gives him like, I don't know, $500 or something like that in cash, and he turns around and gives it all away to somebody, to the homeless. And they get him
No, he gave it to the security guard that wanted to throw his ass out of there.
Is that who I thought he.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of the backpack and stuff.
Yeah. All right. Before I forget, he stole an entire shopping cart full of stuff right in front of Jessup and then gave it away to the homeless. Yeah. How did he pull that off? Like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, a lot of shoplifters pocket stuff or whatever. I don't know. But a whole shopping cart full of stuff. I'm just wondering how he walked out of that with, right in front of the store.
I'm not exactly sure how he did that, other than
No, they
I don't.
don't explain a lot of stuff.
There's a
In
lot
f-
of holes in the stories for sure.
exactly. The documentary actually brings up more questions than it does answers. And I
Yeah.
have pages and pages in my notebook that I was trying to go over. And I mean, if I get to it, that's cool. If not, um, there's just a lot of questions. When you're having a conversation with somebody, sometimes certain things just don't come up organically. So we'll have
Hmm.
to let that go. I might make a video about it later.
There you
But
go.
but yeah, so many questions.
So
And
many. Hey, BR the Star. Hey, Ava. Good to see you guys. So yeah, so many questions. Um, oh, that's a good point. Ava said in California they don't stop you under a certain amount of money, but the documentary makers may have paid it off too. Well, none of it's on
that would
video.
be my guess.
Yeah, I feel like they just paid it because they're trying to get him to Jimmy Kimmel.
Well,
So
and
we
there's
go.
the scene. He
Hmm.
he pees on something. I think that was when he peed on the sidewalk,
Hmm.
or he was doing something. He was at the music shop or something, and I just remember there's a quick clip where some security guards come, and Jessup goes and talks to him, and they just
Hmm.
show like a couple seconds of him going and talking to some security guards. So
Yeah,
you
he
know,
probably fixed it.
yeah, I think that they're just like, well, this is all we want to show of this, but this should answer anybody's question who's paying attention.
Yeah. So they do that. They go to Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy gives them the board and the wetsuit and everything that he had wanted, and that's pretty much that. Then after Jimmy Kimmel, Jessup does another interview with Kai, but they're real picky. In fact, his YouTube Jessup Riseback has a YouTube channel. Okay, but the only people that have permission to use his videos are the local news station he worked for. That's why I haven't pulled anything up, because I don't want to deal with fighting a copyright claim and them saying, well, we want to look at your analytics, and then, got to prove for, fair use, and fair use is very subjective, and yada, yada, yada. So I'll put the links in chat if you guys want it, or in the description after this is over. Because to go check out some of these interviews, but, to stream, like if I were to make a video, which I have a video like halfway done, well, 3/4 of the way done, it would be fine. And if I premiered it, it would be fine. But to stream it is something different. Whatever, it's YouTube. I just go with it. Anyway, he goes in and does a follow-up interview with Kai. And Kai talks about some stuff that, is kind of dark. And, he talks about the dangers of being, homeless. And, of course, we find out that, Kai is very clearly not from West Virginia, although that town that he named does exist. It's a real place. He's actually from Canada. He had a tumultuous childhood. I think pretty much everybody that was interviewed family wise for the documentary, except for his mom, agrees that he had a rough childhood. The cousin, his dad wasn't in the documentary, but he's given several interviews to the media. So,
Wait, just real quick. I don't want to
mm,
interrupt or break the flow, but
oh no, you're
are
fine.
you saying that Dogtown is a real place, or
The Lords of Dogtown is a real thing.
okay? Because that was one thing I did think I had tracked down, but now my memory is unclear if
So he
Dogtown is actually
said
a real
Dogtown.
place.
Yeah, well, I think it's just, let me ask my husband in a minute. I'll ask him, because Lords of Dogtown is a thing. It is, that is the very beginning of like the Powell Peralta brand skateboarding.
Oh, okay.
Skateboards. Yeah. So like, I think that it is a neighborhood is what they're describing, not like an actual, actual location, but
Okay.
Sophia, West Virginia is a real place.
Well,
He just
yeah.
ain't
So
from
yes,
there.
Sophia, West Virginia is a real place.
He just ain't
Wink,
from there.
and the most douchey face ever. So,
Yeah, he's just not from there. He's from Canada.
oh,
And
right, Jen, you were supposed to
yeah,
send me the memo of what words I can and can't say.
well,
Well, we don't
sorry,
know.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
YouTube keeps changing it on us, so we have no clue, what their
Yeah,
rules are. But
yeah, but yeah. So, he's from, on where is he from? Ontario, Canada. He's from the Canadas.
I forget where in Canada, but yes.
Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. That's where he's from.
And if you listen closely, you can hear his accent.
Oh gosh, yes. Exactly. Well, when he said
Oh,
Sophia,
heck
West
yeah.
Virginia, and when he said the policy, even though
The
he's
policy
making,
enforcers.
yeah, it's the way they say policy. It's different than like police. It's
Now,
just
see,
the
I
way they
thought he was
say it.
trying to mimic some sort of slang, like saying policy enforcers rather than the police or something. Like that was some sort of slang in, say, California, where he was trying to pretend like he was from, or Virginia, or wherever he's trying to pretend like he's from. But
Right.
let's not kid ourselves. He's
Well,
lied about everything.
Well,
So.
that's because he's not in this country legally.
And because he wants to paint himself as somebody he's not.
Well,
Or
yeah.
at least that's my opinion.
No, I get it. I just feel like it's Venice Beach. That's right. Thank you, Heather. It's been a minute. So he had a troubling childhood. He did spend some time in some group homes. Whose fault that is and what the real deal is, it's kind of hard to really put together and ascertain, because his dad and his mom divorced when he was 4. And so it's interesting because in the interview with Jessup, the follow-up interview, they play it more in depth on the documentary, just because there's stuff that you can't you can't show it on like the local news channels. And I don't know why he never uploaded it in full to his YouTube channel, but there's more of it on the in the documentary. But anyway, the way that Kai describes it sounds like he lived with his dad and his stepmom. But if you read the interviews between his, from his dad, he mainly was with his mom. So it's very confusing. None of them really have the story right. So it's been very difficult for me to try to vet and authenticate exactly where he was and who he lived with and this, that, and the other. But basically what ended up happening is Kai essentially aged out of the system. And that's when he dipped from Canada and came over to the United States illegally. He admits it. But anyway, he, kind of cruised around the California area and, basically relied on the kindness of strangers and handouts. But it's rough to be a homeless kid anywhere. And he was young. 18, although is a legal adult, you're not mature at 18, especially boys. And
and
it
if
was
I
rough.
may just please point out that he did not admit that he was a Canadian citizen until after he was caught and felt that it would help his defense.
Yes.
The claim of self-defense, which I personally don't see any sort of evidence of it being self-defense. I'm sure we'll get into that later. And in no way, shape, or form am I saying that I am right. But I would like to say my view on it, because I feel like it's an underrepresented view as far as any sort of YouTube channel I've watched or the documentary or anything like that. I am seeing something totally different. And, I could be wrong, but I just sort of feel like in my gut, this was the one time when I thought I actually had an opinion and was going to get up and talk about a true crime case. So, but we will get into all that.
We're going to get into it.
Oh, yes. Yes, we are. We're deep diving.
Yeah, I can't. I haven't really completely made up my mind yet. But anyway, so he's cruising around. He does tell Jessup about a situation where it's kind of hard to tell if he was I think he was being essayed, and he decided that he was going to fight, and he ended up getting away. And but on in 2013, this is when he's hitchhiking and he runs into Jet. What is his last name? Jet Simmons McBride. Well, so the incident that happens, and as he's at Jimmy Kimmel's, the police show up because they want to speak to Kai. So they take him for an interview and whatever, and they release him. And at the he's becomes kind of famous, infamous, if you will, because of this video. But if you do go and search YouTube, and you will find videos of people who were fans of Kai's, and like they ran into him, on the streets or whatever, and they were asking him, are you the real Kai? And I think that you can see that Kai feels like he's being treated like a show pony, I think, and he's got a pretty explosive temper, and it's quick. It's like a switch. And so there's a few of those videos out there too of him kind of flipping out a little bit, but he's he plays a show, and one of the guys that he played a show with just didn't care for him and is listening to Kai retell this story. Okay. Well, the part of the story that Kai doesn't tell is what was going on in the car with Jet McBride prior to this accident. And what had happened was they had stopped at a gas station, and Kai bought a joint off of somebody at the gas station, and they smoked it together. And the next part is kind of murky depends on who you believe or which version Kai tells. That's just the truth. Because he told the guys the band that he was doing the show with, that the joint was laced, and that Jet McBride flipped out, and that he said, and that Jet was saying, I'm Jesus Christ, and tells the story of the 14-year-old, and I'm invisible. And that Kai says that he said to Jet, well, if you're invisible, then drive through that crowd of people right there. It was a dare. And that's what happened. So they were not impressed. And I will say this, for Kai's part, they did take him, Jessup took him to a music store, and he's quite good at the guitar, and he does have a good voice. That you can't deny. I think it would be better if Kai had his own voice and wasn't trying to imitate Sublime, but that's just me. But that's just, that's neither here nor there.
All right, that deserves a laugh out loud right there.
What? The laugh out
the
loud?
Sublime part.
Yeah, I mean, I like Sublime, but Sublime is Sublime, and it is what you got to be your own you. You know what I mean?
I like Sublime despite all my urges to just not. But but I've actually learned how to play a bunch of their songs on guitar and stuff. Fine, I'll admit it. But they are not. They're a poser band. They are. That's
okay. That. All right.
And I just let's see if my brain can work here. I just wanted to interject about something you were telling about the story, and I hate it when my mind goes blank because I get kind of nervous being on.
Oh, don't worry, it's just me and you. It's just me and you talking.
Yeah, right. The whole internet's not listening.
The whole internet's not listening. I can guarantee you, they're not listening.
Focus us out. But all right, we were talking about the whole lace joint thing,
right?
About and I had that paper with everybody's name written down on it. All right,
yes, are you talking about
Gabriel
new Sublime or old Sublime? Because I'm talking about old Sublime, not new Sublime.
There's no such thing as new Sublime, right?
Well, they got a new frontman, I think.
Oh, well, that's not the same. They should call it something else. Just like I
What's what
think
I
Pink
think, but
Floyd should
whatever.
have changed their name when Roger Waters left the band.
Right. Well,
But
we
they,
don't
they
know.
don't have to. I'm just
They
saying,
don't
like
be
that would have
listening
been,
to us coolest reviews,
yeah,
you know.
it would have been a lot less confusing and a lot better for the world. But uh, Gabriel Francisco was the guitar player in the band the Redcoats, who says that Kai had told him that whole story about lacing the joint and
Mhm.
making the suggestions and everything like that. So, in my opinion, if Kai was not in McBride's car, then Neely would have never been pinned to that truck. So, I agree with that detective that Kai is not clean in all of this. He, at the very least, helped cause that accident or wreck. In a way, I feel like it's not an accident.
Well,
I mean,
no, it
that's all
wasn't
I
an
got right this
accident.
second.
He intentionally drove into the guy.
Yeah.
It was not
Either
an
way.
accident.
Oh, and because I think this is the right time to say this, before the Netflix thing came out, I was on one of your live chats, and somehow Kai the Hitchhiker came up, and I was just so curious. I had to look it up right then and there. And right before I look up the news stories, Momo says something about how Kai's in prison on a totally separate killing charge. So I go into it with that, and I'm reading all these news articles, and now after the Netflix documentary came out, all of these news articles are really hard to find. I
Oh, I
haven't been
found a
able to
ton of
find
them.
them.
Oh, I found a
Hmm?
ton of them. I found a ton of them.
But
You just
I
got
mean
to
that
know how to look.
I mean the ones that I read before the Netflix documentary came out. And yes, I
Mm,
probably don't know how to look properly, but some of the things I read, and I think it's unfortunate I can't back it up by just posting the links,
I
at least
know.
not right this second. But there was conflicting interviews when the incident in 2013 happened. Some
Hmm.
people said absolutely no way, the racial slurs didn't happen. Some people said that they saw Kai grab the steering wheel. All that kind of stuff is not showing up because I think the documentary wants to paint a certain kind of story. And uh, one of the most telling things, in my opinion, is that they don't show McBride's trial. They don't show it. They barely show anything from it. And Neely, the guy who was pinned, specifically said that he did not hear any sort of racial slurs. On the other
Well,
hand, he was pinned to a car and probably screaming in agonizing pain. But
the two women who were mother and daughter, they heard it.
huh?
They testified to it. Hmm.
Well, I haven't heard that specifically. I didn't know. I tried to do quite a bit of research on this one, but I have a feeling you know how to look a little better than I do. So you've read quite a bit more than I have.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean, this is what I do. So yes, but I know how to use the keywords to find what I'm looking for. And
mhm.
I will say this. So we were talking about Kai on I've talked about Kai a few times because Dr. B and I, we knew that he had been in trouble and that he'd been arrested and he'd had a trial and he went to prison. And we were trying to find if there was any trial footage. And I did find a video one time and I cannot find it and I can't remember the live stream that I was talking on about it. But after this situation with Joseph Galfy came out, there does exist, and my son remembers it. There is a video clip of Kai basically admitting that the situation with Galfney, it wasn't SA, it was something consensual that then he had regrets. There exists a video out there. I cannot find it. I know I have seen it. I just can't find it. So this is allegedly something that Kai has said respective to the situation with Joseph Galfney.
But
Okay.
you've seen it. with your
I've
own eyes
seen
and
it
heard
with
it with
my
your own
own
ears.
eye. Yes, but the
Okay.
thing is,
Well,
I
that's
can't.
good enough for me.
Yeah, but it might not be good enough for anybody else. I appreciate
Well,
that it's
but
good enough for
at the
you.
same time, uh, what does it really matter? Because the dude's in prison,
This is true.
in my opinion, where he belongs. So at this point, it really doesn't matter if we can prove or back up what we're saying in a way. But I hear you that it would be really nice if,
If I could
we could
find
just
it.
find that info. That's what I'm saying. There was so much stuff that I had read and just didn't think, oh, I need to download this. I need to save this. I need to document this. I can just really give a crap about Kai.
Sometimes what you have to do, coolest reviews, let me give you a hint, a trick that I learned.
Okay.
So because Kai was hot at the beginning of the year because this documentary was going out, right? If
Hmm.
you start reading the articles, like say there's several from the New York Post, but they also have links inside of the article when they reference something from the past. If you click those links, that's how I was able to find the older stuff.
Yeah, because I read a bunch of stuff that was published in 2013,
Yeah,
and that was easy to find until the Netflix documentary came out.
right. So if you go to, yeah, so like there's several articles in the New York Post that have hyperlinks in them. And the writing is blue, you know what that is. And if you
Sure.
just click it, it'll take you to older archived articles from back in 2013.
Yeah, and we got to
That's how
start
I
saving
found
that
so much
stuff.
stuff. Yeah. So so then Jet McBride goes on trial. Okay. Now he it was all he was deemed not competent to stand trial. So it really wasn't like it was more like it was a trial, but basically he was going to go to the mental hospital, which is where he did end up going. And Kai testified, which this is confusing to me because there is footage of Kai testifying, but it cannot be at the trial because Jet's trial. Let me look this up because this was confusing to me. Because the trial was in 2014 and the Joseph Galfy was murdered in 2013. So, because it was over Mother's Day weekend of 2013. So there's no way he testified in a trial. It had to have been like either the initial appearance or the because the thing with Jet was February 2nd, 2013. His hearing or trial wasn't until 2014, and by that point he was already in jail. And the video, the footage that they have from his testimony, he's in plain clothes. And his hair is long. So he wasn't, this must have been something else, like an initial hearing, a probable cause hearing, something like that. But anyway, so what ends up happening is they had given Jet McBride a toxicology test, and there wasn't anything other than THC in his system. So the joint was not laced, but he did have mental health issues, and that's a fact. So I feel like, you mix anything with the mental health situation, and it can be a recipe for disaster, especially if the person is not taking their medication. And I think that's, so yeah.
Yeah, but remember that Gabriel Francesco, I'm not
Hmm.
sure if I'm pronouncing that right, the guy who played the guitar in the band, he brought up a great point in that just because the toxicology report didn't pick up substances doesn't mean they weren't there. They can only test for certain things, right?
Well, well, but toxicology usually tests are pretty broad. for the things they're testing for. And there's only, I mean, what could he have what could he have laced the joint with that would have made him freak out? PCP, that shows
Well,
up.
that's way out of my element, but
Yeah, PCP, that would show up. Coke would show up. So
hey
any
man, every
any
time I do
illicit
coke, you give me that every time I do coke talk, man.
So yeah, like most illicit drugs, all illicit drugs would have shown up. It just wasn't. I just, so that's
Well, I have a
another.
feeling that Kai gets his hands on all kinds of substances, legal and illegal. Just because something isn't technically illegal doesn't mean you should be taking it.
Well, right. So there's that. So that's what happened with that. And Jet McBride ends up going to a Tuscadero mental hospital, and he's out now, and he's been out for quite some time. But then Kai just kind of, after the whole thing, he's just like tooling around or whatever, and he ends up in New York, in Times Square, which is where he met Joseph Galfy. And then what follows has been, it's kind of hard for me as a true crime person it's difficult for me to vet, because obviously the cops, the detectives, the prosecutor, they're going to have the state, they're going to have what they believe happened, right? But it's difficult for me without having any of the case materials to look at. None of them are available online. And then Kai has some allegations that because none of the case files are available online, I requested them. We'll see if I get them. It makes it difficult for me to say, yes, when this officer said X, Y, and Z in the documentary, it's supported by this document. You know what I mean? So, the cops don't, in this situation, do they have a reason to lie? Not really. Even though Kai asserts that Galfy is a predator, and because his brother is a cop, and that there is reason to cover up, and pin it on him. But I'm dubious about that, because there isn't proof of that either. There's proof of the fact that, yes, Joseph Galfy was an attorney. That's that there's proof of that. There is proof that his brother was in law enforcement. There's proof of that. But as far as Galfy being a predator, there isn't any. I can't find any proof of that.
Well, here's why I don't believe it. And right up front, of course, exactly what you said. So I'll try to remember not to make that point, that I couldn't find any information on him ever doing this before. But let's think about this realistically. He's an attorney. He knows all this stuff. He's a smart guy, I'm sure, or was a smart guy, I'm sure. I would say, let me think about who my first victim should be. The guy who's super famous for being a hero, for taking out some guy for committing assault by smashing him with a hatchet. That's who I want my first victim to be. Right. And he takes him back to his house. Like, he supposedly assaults him the first night, and then Kai goes and he's going to leave, and he has other options. In the documentary, they go over that, like, everybody loves him and he has lots of places to stay. But he's like, I'm going to go back to this person who assaulted me and stay at his house, because that's a good idea. What I'm getting at is everything looks to me like Kai premeditated this. He picked out Galfy for whatever reason. I personally think that, all right, I'll just be upfront with that. I think Kai is a sadistic serial killer. I think everything points to him just being unhinged, deranged, a serial killer, and he has his type, and Galfy fit that type. And for whatever reason, Galfy reminded him of something that's happened to Kai in the past, maybe something that was terrible, assault, something that shouldn't have happened. But at this point, I'm even having a hard time believing that Kai was abused. I think he was just sort of born evil. And I don't even necessarily believe in that, but even he was talking about it in the documentary. They show it how he was. I think he projects a lot, and he was talking about how it's like, oh, when I was a baby, they were talking about how I was born with a demon in the crib, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And a lot of people don't have memories of when they're real young. I actually can remember when I was quite young. I mean, like really young. I can remember my first birthday and stuff like that. Apparently, that's rare, but even me, I don't remember a lot of it. When I was young, it's hard for me to recall those memories.
Right.
And he's talking about that. He's talking about, and maybe this is a good segue to talk about how he hated his mother so much.
Yeah.
Um, Something about his mom and her body language and her eyes, and I've seen this before. She seems very disengaged with her true emotions,
Hmm.
but that doesn't necessarily mean that anything Kai is saying is true. And
Right.
there's something that just feels off to me about his whole story about his mom locking him in his room to as punishment and things like that. To me, that seems more like she was actually telling the truth and that he was always getting into stuff and getting into trouble. Um, I don't know. I know for a fact that I am biased, and I this one, it's kind of got me baffled a little bit. I know I can't see it clearly, but I think it is a legitimate point to think about.
Well, this is my issue with the parents. The things that so if you go back to some of the older articles and interviews that has she's only given like one or two interviews to the media, and the deal was that she would agree to answer some questions, but she did not want her identity in the paper. And because she is in Canada, it's harder for people like from the United States. It would be more difficult for us to find her. It wouldn't if
Hmm.
she was if she resided in the United States and was a United States citizen. Of course, we would know all of her pertinent information
Hmm.
because that's just the way it is here. So we can't find it on her. Like Canadians can look Canadians. How do I? Yeah, Shanita. The Canadas, they can look us up, but we cannot look them up.
Oh,
So
I didn't know that.
yeah, well, yeah, because they got access to Google. It's not like they're on the internet over there
Well,
in the Canadas and
sure.
are looking people up, and the Canadas is like, stop. You're looking up a United States citizen, and you are from the Canadas. No, there's
Well,
no
no,
way.
I get that. I just didn't realize that the
Yeah,
Canadian citizens had their
they,
pertinent information as protected.
every other country but us has their pertinent information protected.
Oh, Ussens.
Usins,
I've been
yes,
saying that for years, like
Usins,
U.S. Ussens. Yeah,
Usins.
because I'm
So
just
we,
so clever.
so it's hard to really, really vet what she is saying. But what I will tell you is that in the early interviews that she gave, she does say that Kai was troubled and he gave her trouble. And but at the end of the day, both the one thing that his mom, his dad, and his cousin all agree on is that they love Kai, but everything else, like Kai's cousin, sort of actually backs up the way that his mother was, that she was strict, and that Kai
Yeah,
didn't get to
absolutely.
do the things that he was allowed to do. But then when you watch his mom, and you are right, there is a disconnect between her emotions and the words that are coming out of her mouth. Like she refers to Kai as a
Oh yeah,
delight,
absolutely.
and it's but it's disingenuous. It's like she doesn't want to, for whatever reason, she doesn't really want to talk about it, which is fine. I mean, it's none of our business, but it doesn't.
Well,
It's odd and it's
maybe when your
unsettling when
son's a
you watch it.
murderer, you kind of want to detach a little bit. I don't know.
True, true enough. I mean, that could be, but I mean, she doesn't. It's odd because she describes him as a delight, but then actually goes on to talk about how he's not a delight. how he
Well,
was a
haven't
lot of
we
work.
seen that and heard that with our own eyes and ears?
Well, yeah,
Uh,
but
he's very charming and
right.
charismatic, but
Hmm.
then he's just on a snap of the fingers, he's just
He can
saying these
twist
horrible
off.
things. You can
Yeah.
tell he's got this rage. Well, you know he's dangerous and violent.
Well, yeah. And so he definitely has anger towards his mother. Absolutely. It comes out in the interview between him and Jessup. He just, but he doesn't really talk about his father. I'll say that too.
Yeah, I noticed that I you've tracked down more information about his dad than I have. I couldn't help but notice that the absence of his father was there. And it's
Hmm.
just like, oh, nobody talks about it. Geez, like, how was he born? We don't know. He didn't have a father.
Yeah, I mean
Some
they
silly thing.
divorced when he was like 4.
Yeah.
So,
So that's the first I'm hearing of that.
yeah, but they don't, I don't know if they tried to reach out to his dad, and his dad's like, look, I've answered questions in interviews. Go read that shit. I don't want to be on this documentary. I don't know
Yeah.
what the deal is there.
And that was
But
another point I wanted to make. If, to me, it feels like at one point in the documentary, his mom, and I should have wrote down her name, but I didn't. His mom says that
oh, I'll tell you.
she has another son. Like her son told her that Caleb was in prison. Caleb is Kai, just so you guys
Right.
know.
Yeah. Caleb
And
McGilvery.
McGilvery, yeah.
Yeah. Caleb McGilvery.
So, there's other people that they could have interviewed, and I just wonder, maybe they declined because
Maybe they did.
if I was his brother, I would probably decline. I probably just wouldn't say anything.
Right.
I kind of have a policy of just staying quiet, especially with the true crime stuff. I often really don't have an opinion. I just try to absorb the information and contemplate it. And I'm like, that's very interesting. Oh, that's curious. That kind of thing. But with this particular case, I have a very strong opinion and side of me that, like I was saying, I just have a gut feeling that this is my opportunity to say what I really think and what we should really be looking at here. And I'm going to be straightforward. It has nothing to do with Kai. It has everything to do with how this case was treated and how people view Kai.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that we will get into that.
We will.
I'm just foreshadowing right now.
Okay. So, hey, cement shoes. All right. So it's
cement shoes.
It's Gil
Right.
McGilvery is his dad's name, and Shirley Stromberg is his mother's name.
Oh, Shirley.
Shirley.
But don't call me Shirley.
Call me Shirley.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we
he gave
resist.
So Gil gave an interview to the Star Ledger and said, quote, Caleb had a real tough life. Noted that his son was in treatment homes until he turned 18, and that the centers, quote, cut him loose and washed their hands of him. Caleb made accusations that he was physically and mentally abused at one of the homes. The system let my son down.
Well, I will say this. I don't know where the abuse came from, but that programming that comes from being abused at a relatively young age, I'm not sure which, all that programming that comes out does seem to be apparent in Kai. So somewhere along the lines, I think he was severely abused.
And he would, yeah. And he's smart too. He
really?
went to, he graduated high school and he took college classes.
Oh, well, that's where I actually, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you, Jen. I think that he's actually one of those people that's just kind of dumb. And I don't mean that in a derogatory or mean way. I just think that his level of intelligence is mediocre at best.
Oh, all right. You can't be mediocre. Are you talking? There's two different types of intelligence, though. Coolest
Sure.
Is, so that I think it's possible that Kai is smart. You have to be somewhat intelligent.
Let me jump in and just explain what I mean. There are multiple uh, facets, is that the right word, of
Mhm.
intelligence, all that stuff. He has an emotional intelligence and a type of like manipulative intelligence. He
Mhm.
understands people. He
Mhm.
knows how to butter people up. He's very good in social situations. Like he can maneuver. The interview in 2013 was brilliant. Instead of jumping right in with what happened, he wants to say, like straight out of Dogtown, it doesn't matter what you've done, your looks, your height, or anything. You're worthwhile. You're lovable. Like he came out with that stuff,
Right.
and i- in my
It
opinion,
was
that's a brilliant
disarming.
move.
Well, it was
Yeah,
disarming because nobody was
exactly.
expecting it.
Yeah, and then we're all like, "Oh, this guy's so charismatic and charming." And I think that his charisma, I don't think charisma can be faked, so I think the charisma is real. I think his
Mhm.
charm can be learned and sort of manufactured in a way. So I think that's through deliberation and practice that he learned how to make that charm.
Well, right.
Um,
If you're
but
if you're an abused kid, you learn um you don't know that you're doing it, but it's your way of avoiding getting smacked around. You learn how to very, very carefully watch your abuser so that you have a heads up if it's your, if something is triggering them. There are tells and you learn those. So it's part of a survival skill. And once you learn that type of behavior because it's necessary for in order for you to survive, you you, you don't unlearn it. You carry it with you in every situation that you're in, and you learn, hey, true psych ward, you learn how to um, read people. So if he were abused, then that's could be where he learned it, or as Dr. B
yeah, hey,
has
Dr.
said
B,
in the chat, that he has that if he has superficial charm is a
superficial
trait
charm.
is a trait of a psychopath. I tend to think that Kai I tend to think that Kai is manipulative and it's a superficial charm. I think he is chameleon like.
Sure. Yeah,
That is what I think.
absolutely.
But where he learned that is difficult for me to say, because if he was in the system, I don't know how the Canadians system is.
Canadians.
The Canadas, I don't know how their child system is, or their, with
But the
like,
emphasis in the wrong syllable.
right. And it's because of Mike from the Jersey Shore. He says the
Uh,
Canadas, and it just made me laugh when he said it, and so now I
and
say it all
and
the
for me,
time.
it's learning Portuguese and trying to get all that
Oh,
syllable
Portuguese is very hard.
enunciation correct. Well, not nearly as hard as any other language for me personally, but
I couldn't. I know
But we could
Portuguese is
talk about
hard.
that another
Another
time if
time,
you want.
but yeah.
In fact,
So
I'd love to talk to you sometime.
all right,
Not on the internet, and we could just
chill.
not have to worry about what words we use and all that kind of stuff, and talk on
Gotcha.
a more personal level.
Gotcha.
um I
Absolutely.
I feel like this type of presentation is a more professional type of thing. So
Have you even met
hmm?
me? What
What do you
about
mean?
me strikes you as professional?
Oh, because
Hey, Jody.
you're very well eloquently spoken, and you research what
Oh,
you
this is
talk
me all
about,
the time.
and
This isn't me being professional. It's just me being me.
you have good
Thank
structure.
you.
Well, just because you don't see it that way doesn't mean you're not doing it. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
well, thank you. I
So,
appreciate that.
like,
I never thought about it that way. I never I just come on and I
well,
say what I got to say, and
well, let me give you an example. And I hate
okay.
to bring me into it all the time, but it's the
Well, I'm
thing I
talking
understand
to
the
you.
best. Right? Because I'm in my own world, I can't
Right,
quite
right.
get out of it. But when I sing and play guitar, I've been doing it for so long that I don't think like, oh, I'm playing a C chord and it's in 4/4 time and like counting in my head and stuff like that. I'm playing and I'm just engaging those emotions so strongly, and
Oh,
I can see that it's very powerful to other people. They could give a damn how many hours I spent counting out 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Like what they really care about is if I'm engaging enough that they feel the emotions themselves. So, and that's what music and performance is about,
you're right.
along
You're
with a
right.
lot of other things.
You're
So,
right.
I think that you've dialed it in and you have it so well down. You understand the structure on a visceral level that you start in a very logical way. You start with your notes, your story, however you do it. I don't know your method, but your results, you kill it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's
And
very
you're a very
nice of
charming
you.
host. So
Oh, well, thank you
I,
very
I'm
much.
I'm
I
thrilled to be
appreciate
here
that.
tonight.
I'm thrilled to have you.
Yeah,
I
I
think
hope I live up to being a good guest.
you're doing just fine. You're doing an excellent,
Yeah.
excellent job. And
Yeah.
yes, true psych word is telling the truth. We do clarify the record sometimes in our own
Yeah.
chat.
Let me read the chat. They're probably all
No,
booing me
they're
and
all
telling me to
great.
get out.
No, they're not at all. Now, come on, Cement.
I
I
know.
mean,
I'm
closed reviews. I'm looking at Cement Shoes comment.
I'm just joking, of
Yeah,
course.
no, we got a cool
No.
chat. Everybody here's cool. So
Yeah.
anyway, I think with Kai, what struck me is that I now he has given an interview before after and it's supposed to be in his interrogation video, which I also requested and have not heard anything back on as
Oh,
of yet.
which the one in 2013, or maybe it was even the same year, but or after he killed Galfy.
Galfany was 2013. So
Okay.
the Jet Simmons McBride was February 2nd, 2013. And
Hmm.
Joseph Galfany was killed over Mother's Day weekend of 2013. And so May, the end of
Oh,
May. Yeah.
that explains his Mother's Day note in a way,
Yes.
or at
Yes.
least adds light to it.
Yes. And so they're okay.
Oh, wow. Maybe that's something that triggered
Something,
him.
something. Yeah. So I think so basically, um, you see in the documentary um, Joseph Galfany at the train station. Okay. And you can see that he's in front of one of those kiosks and he's buying a ticket. And you can see
Hmm.
that he turns and speaks to somebody, but there's a pillar in the way and you can't quite see the person. And then suddenly the person that was behind the pillar moves and walks towards Galfany. And you realize that, I mean, it's Kai.
Oh yeah,
And
I
he's
recognize his body structure right away. I knew it was him
absolutely
as soon as before he turned. Just immediately, I could just tell it was him. Um, and I can tell when it's in the documentary when it's an actor playing him, and
right.
that's okay. I understand why they did that, but there's something about his body structure and everything about him. He is just super recognizable. There's no mistaking it.
Right. So he takes the ticket, shakes Galfney's hand, but then they hug. There
Yeah,
is
and
an
hug.
embrace. Then he gets on the train. That's
He got on the train because I'm
yes,
a little
he did.
unclear about that.
I okay, this is what I had to do because I was unclear about it too. But he did leave. He did. So he
Okay.
does get on the train. He had plans to hang out with friends that Saturday. Okay. But for whatever reason, the plans fell through. So he calls up this girl who, bless her heart, is referred to in the case file as girl fan number one. Bless
Oh,
her heart. Yeah. Yeah.
she turned him in though, right?
Um, well, let me think about that. Let me just tell the story.
She
Maybe it'll,
alerted the police to where he was, I thought. And I
um,
don't blame her one damn bit for that one,
I think
but maybe
that
not.
maybe I can't. Well, no. Hold on. Let me think about that a minute. Okay, so he starts. So he doesn't end up hanging out with his friends. All right, And then he ends up not having a place to stay. So he calls Joseph Galfy and he comes back and picks him up. I don't know where he was. I don't know where he was once he got on the train, where he went on the, it's kind of
Yeah, they
fuzzy.
totally leave that part out.
They leave that out.
And I remember in the documentary, I thought it was strange because like this day, you know, it shows the footage of them, they're hugging, buy the train ticket, all that stuff. It was for the previous day. But then Galfy is killed the night after that. So there was a whole day in there that basically isn't accounted for.
Well, Kai, we don't know where Kai was, but I'm sure law enforcement does.
Sure.
So I guess for whatever reason, they didn't feel like it was integral to the plot, which they obviously haven't been paying attention to true crime people, because that's very integral to the plot. I want to know where he was. So anyway,
yeah, exactly.
He ends up getting picked up, and Kai is brought back to Galfy's house, and then he leaves Sunday. All right. Then he starts calling the girl who's in the police notes as girl fan number one.
Girl fan number one.
Girl fan number one, like blowing up her phone. You know, he's
hey, I'd be calling her too. Number one fan.
You know,
every guy likes that.
He's at the train station. He can't get in. He can't. You know, his phone's dying. You know, she ends up picking him up. Okay, but when she picks him up, she notices that he's cut his hair. He's had his hair cut, because his hair is most definitely long in the initial train picture, right?
Yeah.
So he's cut his hair. And at this point, nobody is any the wiser about Joseph Galfy, although people are side-eyeing a couple of posts that Kai made on Facebook.
Yeah.
The one that people side-eye the most is what would you do if you woke up in the morning with a metallic taste in your mouth and you go to the bathroom and...
are you going to read this?
No, I'm not reading. I'm going to paraphrase it. And you go and you find basically that some guy has SH'd you and blew his load in you. That's what he wrote. Which that's not very, but we're what? An hour and 14 in. We've passed the
Hey, I'm not opposed to using words and reading this stuff out loud. I just there's a certain level of politeness I like to keep for my channel. This is your channel. You can say.
Well, I mean, it's true crime. I got to say what he said, because what he wrote, because that's what caused the people to. And so I think
we should be allowed to say it.
We should. One of the people on his friends list responded, and basically something to the effect of smash, smash, smash. And Kai responded to that person. That sounds like it's what I'm thinking, right? So at this point, Kai's away from Galfy's house and whatnot, and nobody is any wiser of what happened. However, on Monday, when Joseph didn't show up for work, the
guy's working at 74 years old,
right? As an
just
attorney.
saying,
right? So they call it the neighbors, and the neighbors are the ones that found Joseph. But there's some discrepancies.
God, that must be such a horrible thing to watch.
Yeah, I cannot. The discrepancy, according to Kai, is the location of Joseph Galfy's body.
Yeah, that was confusing to me too, because, all right, I need to study my forensics a little bit better, but the crime scene photos that they showed in the documentary, the blood looks blue. So that was a luminol thing, right? So did Kai try to clean the scene before he left?
No, he just left.
Okay.
So according to Kai, the reason it looks like that, I'm not saying this, the reason it looks like that is according to Kai. So according to Kai.
No, the reason why it looks like that is exactly according to Kai. If it weren't for Kai, I think that maybe Galfy would still be alive right now.
Probably.
Just saying.
Well, so Kai says that during the attack, and he was defending himself, he was so afraid that he peed his pants. And so that is why the blood stain looks the way that it does, because he's actually Kai was on the floor. That's urine and blood.
Wow, really? He pissed
That's
on
what
his
he
head
said.
after
I'm
he
just
stomped
telling
him?
you what he said.
Oh my God.
So
Oh, this is so much worse than I thought.
but he
You know,
didn't
really.
clean up. In fact, the reason
Well,
that
does he look like the kind of guy that cleans up?
no, he got the hell out of Dodge. And the thing of it is that after when he is leaving, he has blood on the cuffs of his pants, but the cuffs of his pants are up underneath his heel. So as he is leaving an imprint in blood that it took the cops a little bit to figure out what it was, because it's the imprint of his jeans under his heel walking out the door. So
Yeah, Heather whatever has a good point here.
he does.
He has a fetish for peeing on things.
He does, but if you look at the pictures, you can it's evident that the blood is on top of the urine stain.
So he rubbed his face in it? Oh, I don't even. Oh, this is just.
I don't know
If I would have known these details, I might have opted out, Jen. Just so you
I
know,
don't.
because it's
Sorry, I don't
no.
know what he
You don't have
actually
to be
did.
sorry. I'm just. I was thoroughly disgusted with Kai from the very not quite the very beginning, but almost from the very beginning, and now it just keeps getting more and more disgusting to me.
Right. So I'll try to like make it.
No. You
I'll
don't have to for
soften
my
it a
sake.
little.
I just want you to know that for the average person like me that isn't into true crime,
These are off-putting
and
details.
this
It's
is the
off-putting to me too. It's just that.
and the real point I want to make is that people missed so many red flags. He
Yeah.
was a freaking maniac psychopath from the very beginning. I saw it. Other people saw it. I was looking at a lot of things that other people had said about Kai. And so I discovered Bill Burr. I guess he's a comedian, which I'd like to look into more. But he
Okay.
was talking about how Kai was just a maniac and nobody was seeing it. And I was thinking the same thing. So it's like, oh, this Burr guy, like he hit
I
this
have to say,
on the nail on the
knowing
head.
what happened with Joseph Galfy, and then you go back and you look at and you listen to the interview that is what caused him to be infamous. And he is telling the story of the smash, 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 but he also tells the second story and shows where see my hand where there's been teeth and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
That is, it's framed in a different light after Galfy, for sure. It does give you pause about what kind of person Kai might actually be. What kind of person is he? And so to that end, you have listening. So I listened because, like I said, there's, I don't know, 15, 20, maybe 25 videos on Kai's YouTube channel, right? Or the YouTube channel for Kai, but whatever.
Yeah, I visited that briefly.
Yeah, I listened to every single one because they're in like 5-minute increments, and if you don't listen to every single one, you don't get what the whole story is that he's trying to say.
And I tried, but
I did it while I was doing dishes. I find if I'm doing something physical, I can handle stuff like that better.
Okay, gotcha.
I can't have my brain completely focused on one thing. I
wanted to, but I was just so thoroughly disgusted with him.
It's hard because Kai maintains that what happened to Joseph was an act of self-defense. The problem with Kai's version of events is that it does not seem to match the evidence at the scene.
Yeah,
for example,
no
Kai doesn't have, there's no marks on Kai.
Yeah, no defensive wounds.
Like not just offensive wounds, but where he would have struggled. There's not, with fighting with Galfy. This guy is 74 years old, for Pete's sake. Kai's 23 years old. And it was what Kai did was brutal. And
to say the least.
There are marks on Galfy that are the same as the scuff marks or the trail, the prints in blood on the tile. There are marks from Kai's jeans and his heel, so on his ear, and it's bad. It was very, very brutal what happened. But Kai they finally track him down, and they arrest him, and they bring him in, and he's interrogated, and the interrogation isn't all that long, because he does say, shouldn't I be talking to an attorney? And right then, that's when they stop talking to him. But there is a part in the interrogation video, and it's not on Netflix, but it is referenced in news articles, where Kai says to the officers, I'm something to the effect of, I'm famous. I don't have to be with men like Joseph Galfy anymore. And I'm not gay. And he says, and even if I was gay, look at him and look at me, basically. And so,
oh, sorry, my cord is hitting the microphone here.
Oh, you're fine. I don't listen. That kind of stuff doesn't
but that kind of thing bothers me.
I know it does, because you're a professional. So, but I'm not. It doesn't bother me.
I always am going off about it. I know.
It's the little imperfections in life that I actually like.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. So look, my thought process on Kai is this. I do think that while he was homeless and before the infamous video, I do think Kai was a hustler. And what I think occurred that day is likely something similar to Eileen Wuornos. I think that there was an agreement made and something triggered him, and Kai snapped.
I think so too.
And he went completely.
That was one of the things I put in my notes. So I'm glad that you're saying it and not me.
I think he went completely. I think he snapped, because
I think he wanted to cover up. I think I've been in certain situations where it's like I've been offered certain things and it made me uncomfortable, and I'm just like, no, like I'm not offended, I don't judge, but I'm just like, no, that's not my thing.
Right.
And if they get pushy about it, like I personally just walk away. But like it's something sort of told me, like just from my personal experience or whatnot, what I think happened is that Kai goes for these things. He's been using this kind of negotiations to get what he needs: food, shelter, traveling across the country, whatever it is. And then he regrets it or is embarrassed about it later. And, I think with McBride and Galfy, he wanted to shut him up. He didn't want them talking about what really happened.
And it is possible that there can be two things can be true at the same time. It could be that Kai is telling part of the truth, meaning it started out something consensual, something that was asked and agreed, and then it went, and then there was something else done that wasn't consensual, because as we all know, like you can withdraw consent. And so you can have both things can be true simultaneously. He could have said, okay, I agree to do X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C. And Galfy tried X, Y, and Z after A, B, and C. And that's what caused the snap. And but the bottom line is this. Galfy didn't have a chance. And I think it is similar to what happened with Eileen, although Eileen used a gun. And so that's different. But Kai Galfy stopped being a threat and Kai didn't stop. That's it. It was so excessive and over the top for it. You can't call it self-defense after that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and I don't think anything shows self-defense. I think this was something premeditated. I think something happened the night before and Kai felt the need to go back and shut up Galfy. I have no proof of that. It's just something that I think should be put out there to contemplate, that maybe that could have been a possibility worth exploring.
It's very possible, because one thing that was interesting to me is something that was absent in the crime scene. which was a robbery. He didn't take anything. Kai didn't rob him at all.
Sure.
So
Yeah, he I do think he's a brutal killer, but at the same time, he really didn't seem like a greedy materialist.
mm-mm,
And yeah, maybe, maybe our hats need to go off to that particular part of his personality. I would never condone everything he's done, but it's always a mixed bag with every person. Well, all right. Actually, there are a few exceptions where I can think of an example of somebody who I know who's just sort of pure evil. Um, he's very famous and he has a whole documentary. I won't go into the name because I don't want to kill my YouTube channel because
oh,
he's just
okay.
so
Too
popular.
much. Got it.
Well, he's just so popular and people worship him, and I don't get
You
it.
don't get it? Yeah.
No. No, I, but all right. Most people have pendulum swing of behaviors. Like
Mm-hmm.
some of the things they do are admirable and, good and virtuous. And then they
Right.
can also swing into the evil side. And I think we all have that, but um, a
Nobody
healthy
is
person,
things all the time.
well, but a healthy person knows how to take their evil side. And I call it evil, like other people call it something different. But to me,
Right.
that's what makes sense. A vindictive or whatever word you want to put to it. For me, it's evil. They have an evil side, but they know how to vent it properly. They can punch a punching bag. They can vent it out through playing guitar or surfing or skateboarding, stuff that I thought that Kai would have been able to let that out and vent in a more
Mm-hmm.
healthy way and not take it to the next level.
Right.
But for whatever reason, he just was not able to keep it under control.
I
And
agree.
he did down a bottle of Jack Daniels apparently in a very short period of time, and that might have a lot to do with it. Excessive alcohol consumption can definitely make you
Right.
feel like you're in a different world, maybe like you're almost in a dream state, and this type of thing isn't real.
Well, he does claim that he was slipped a Mickey. So
Yeah, he
the night
flipped
prior,
himself a Mickey, then he
the
laced
night
his joint,
prior.
right?
Well, no, I think this was in the beer. The
Well,
first
that
night.
no, I get it. I get that that's what
Oh
Kai
yeah, yeah, yeah,
claims.
yeah. There is an element of the investigation that does bother me. If for nothing else, just to make sure all of the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, why not give Kai an essay exam? He was willing.
Well, that's another point that I wanted to bring up. And to me, Kai fled the scene. The detectives, even if they didn't handle it all correctly, I don't know, because that's totally out of my element and not my expertise. But Kai fled the scene. Uh, Initially, the detectives didn't know what Kai wanted them to investigate, right? So if
No,
there was
he
some
told
evidence,
them when they caught him. They told him when they caught Kai. He does tell the officers, the detectives in
well,
his interrogation that he was
sure, but
essayed.
doesn't that evidence, wash away or diminish after a certain point? A day,
Um,
maybe? I don't
well,
know. I'm
um,
guessing it would.
no, I mean, there are things that can happen that um, take time to heal.
Hmm.
And so those would be evident. Yeah. I mean, biological evidence, it depends. It depends on if he showered. It depends on a lot of different things. I mean, when he is arrested, he doesn't exactly look clean.
Yeah, no, he
So,
doesn't look like the kind of guy who showers too often.
well, yeah, but I'm
Bathing,
just saying, like,
just not his thing,
right. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to shower when you're home,
No, I
it's,
get it, but still.
yeah, but yeah, but the thing of it is
Galfy
like,
looked like he had a very nice house, and
well, yeah,
there might have been a shower or even a bath. For all of those out there, like in chat or whatever, that can actually take a real bath, highly recommend it. I did the other day, and it was phenomenal. So,
yeah, I think he just wanted to get like, I think he just wanted to get the hell out of Dodge. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I
So
think
what
so
I'm
too.
saying is that at least look into it, right? At least try. You know what I'm saying? That because
Sure,
it's
absolutely.
something that he said from the very beginning. And what's interesting is that he it's difficult for me to say it absolutely unequivocally didn't happen because honestly, it's very difficult to prove a negative if nothing, he wasn't examined and he wanted to be offered. So that part, that gives me pause.
Sure, absolutely.
The Facebook post could be argued either way. It could be argued that he's telling that the Facebook post is true, right? And that he was saying he was writing a genuine experience that he had. It could also be said, the other side of that coin, that he was setting up his defense right then. Hey,
Sure.
Sam,
And
so you can look at it
that's
both
where
ways, but
I
without
tend to lean just
a
because of
kit.
all of
Yeah, but that's the problem, is that it would be very easy to solve had there been a kit done.
All right.
Because
Well,
he wasn't on the run for that long between,
yeah.
I think 4 or 5 days, maybe. Hold on, I wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah. He was caught quickly. Sure.
Yeah.
And you're telling me new information because I don't know a whole. I do understand some forensics. I've studied it and I'm just very interested in it. But as far as this kind of detail or this kind of evidence, totally out of my element. I have to take your word on it. I honestly don't know. As much as I hate to admit that, I don't know something, but it's true nonetheless.
I
So,
don't know a lot of things. I
so
learn
yeah,
every
right.
day.
Yeah, you could fill a book with what I don't know.
Right.
In
I
fact, you
don't
could
know
fill
geometry.
a library. Could fill that library that got burned down in ancient Egypt. Wasn't that a shame? But I digress.
So Kai makes a lot of what's interesting about his YouTube channel to me is that this is why Kai has a level of intelligence. He is explaining parts of the law accurately. And the thing of it is, like habeas corpus, that he explains it correctly.
And Martian law.
It doesn't apply. Well, I mean,
Sorry, that's a reference to a cartoon.
Yeah, it doesn't. I was thinking of something, and then
Yeah,
anyway,
and I screwed it up.
No, you
I'm a
didn't.
jerk.
You're
I'm a
fine.
jerk. What can I say?
You're fine. You're fine. You're
Yeah,
not,
but I'm
you
still a
didn't.
jerk.
I'm just
I mean,
stuck on
come
this habeas corpus thing because he does explain it correctly. It's basically habeas corpus means that it's unlawful for them to keep you in jail or in prison because you are. It's a actual innocence claim. That by them keeping you by you being in prison, the people keeping you in prison are actually violating the law. It's kind of complicated, and that's the gist of it, right?
But
But
does
he
make
understands
sense.
it. And the fact that he not only does he understand it, he's able to explain it. And it's kind of a difficult concept. And he is applying this isn't a Daryl Brooks situation. Okay.
I have no idea who that is. So
That's
going
the guy
over my
in the
head.
Waukesha who represented himself, the Christmas parade guy that drove through the Christmas parade in Waukesha,
I actually
Wisconsin last year.
the chat probably knows, but
yeah, they all know. I covered his trial.
I vaguely know. Oh, well, there's plenty of stuff that I just can't watch on your channel.
Oh, he
Jen.
was the box.
I like
guy.
you. I like you as a host. You have a great channel, but there's plenty of stuff that you cover that I'm just like,
I do too much true time. It's true crime over here. It's hard. So, but yeah, anyway, he's
and it's just not my thing. So
right. He understands how to apply the law to his situation, and that takes intelligence. He does have a certain level of intelligence in that way. And
well, he does have a type of intelligence and a level of intelligence. I'll agree with you there.
Book smarts.
One
and
of
a
the
little
things,
street smarts, but not emotional
Lots of street smarts, I would guess.
Yeah, he doesn't. To me, he
But
doesn't have emotional smarts. He
the
doesn't
one
know
thing
how to be with people.
the one thing that I do agree that I think was a smart move on his part, maybe initially a really dumb move and then a smart move, is
Hmm.
after he made that interview with Jessup,
Hmm.
he realized that he had said way too much. And if he kept doing interviews, that it was just going to get increasingly worse for him. So he was like, wait a minute, the cops should still have me in custody. They should be doing a second interview, a second interrogation. I've said way too much in this interview. Maybe I should just disappear. And I
Yeah,
think he tried to do that. But
right.
then the seduction of fame and all that kind of stuff, I think, lured him back in
I don't
when
know.
he was offered the Jimmy Kimmel show. And
Kimball.
oh, it's Kimball. I thought it was Kimmel.
Kimmel.
I looked
Jimmy
it up
Kimmel.
earlier. Kimmel, I think. I like Kimmel just fine, but he's not my thing, so I don't actually watch his show, but I have seen him. But yeah, so Kimmel, pretty sure. And I think it was actually a dumb move for him to go on that show, because have you seen the footage of him talking on the show and what he said? It was just bizarre, in my opinion. And Jen's distracted, so I'm just sort of hanging here.
Sorry, my microphone got unplugged. Oops.
Amateur.
Yeah, I know. Well,
sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Well, no, it's fine. Now I'm all tangled up. Okay, here we go.
Anyway, I'm gonna bust your chops.
Of course you are. Of course. I just feel like but it's weird because he actually didn't get caught up in the fame. He actually made it very.
He pretended
difficult.
to.
Yeah, but
I think that was a lot of and that's another one of his emotional intelligence things. Pretend like you don't care, don't come across as desperate, that kind of thing. We could go into that whole psychology, but I don't know that it's really right for this particular show and topic.
Right.
But,
I just feel like if he were into the fame and fortune, right? Wouldn't he have given his contact information to more than one person? Because
not necessarily.
After the initial interview that in February, right after the smash, right? At that point, there was other news crews out there, and they wanted to talk to him, and he was like, "No, I said what I needed to say, and I'm done." And it took Jessup a little bit, actually, even to track Kai down, even
absolutely.
to meet up at the diner. He just didn't seem like. I think that he's like a feral cat. You know what I mean? Like a feral cat. If you put food out for a feral cat, the feral cat will eat, but he'll
But they'll wait until you're not there because they're
Correct.
afraid you're going to try to pet them.
Correct. And they're never going to be your friend. They're grateful for the food. They're grateful if you put something for them to have shelter. But
most of them won't be your friend.
But they're not going to be your friend. It's very
I know
difficult.
cats well enough that I can be friends with a feral cat, but that's a whole nother story.
It's a difficult. You have to be very patient, and it's very.
It's an uphill battle.
Correct. A feral cat versus a feral kitten is different. You could turn a feral kitten. It's very difficult to turn a feral cat. But that's kind of like how Kai is to me. He seems like he doesn't, he just doesn't know how to act around other people. He can be in social situations.
That's hard for me to hear, Jen, because I sort of feel like I'm the same way as far as being around people. Like, God, I hope I'm not like Kai.
You're not like Kai.
I hope
being
not.
uncomfortable around people, which I'm not a fan of huge crowds myself, right? That's different than actually not there's something about Kai. I don't know. I'm having a difficult time putting what
Well, I have
I'm trying to say.
two theories, and maybe they don't match up or whatever. One, he was smart enough to know that the type of control that you can have if you just have one person to go through, say an agent or something like that, being an artist,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh no, talk to my agent. Like, yes, you can talk to me in person, but you have to go through my agent first, type of thing. And there's a like multiple levels of control and manipulation that you can use through that. So that's all I'm going to say about that for right now.
Right.
Unless you want to talk about that in another video or something, that would be fine.
Okay.
But the other theory I have is that, and I in my notes, and I can back this up with a bunch of notes. I'm not sure if that would be appropriate. You let me know. But my other theory is that Kai has been a drifter for a long time. He has his
Mm-hmm.
type. He's a serial killer. He's killed before. He has plenty of bodies uh, in his hand, or however you want to put it. And the police don't necessarily catch up with this because he's killed other homeless people. Not dissing on homeless people. I'm lucky
No,
enough
but
that I have
it
never
is
been in that situation, but I've been damn close a few times.
it is
So
a population that gets taken advantage of. They're
yeah,
at risk.
and if he were to stomp somebody's head in and leave them in a homeless camp, the police will show up. And I mean, honestly, what kind of forensics can they have to track him down? They might have some boot prints, but he could have changed his shoes. Uh,
Yeah,
I
but
don't
he
know
now
the
he's a
details.
felon. Now he's a felon. So if there was
Well, yeah,
any
because
DNA, he would
he
be in this system. What
crossed
I
the
don't know what
border.
this means, Kai. I mean, Heather, whatever. I don't know what you're trying to say here, babe.
What? Kai isn't an INFJ.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
It's a intuitive something. Uh, it's one of the rarest personality types. They're very intuitive and feeling.
Mm.
They're basically like an empath
Oh.
type. Yeah, it's one of the personality types. And yes, Heather, whatever. He is probably not an INFJ because they're uh, 1 to 5% of the population.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm a really, oh man, I shouldn't be saying this. I'm
Well, don't
trying to
say it if
not.
you're uncomfortable. Don't say anything you're uncomfortable with, or you
Sure,
might have
but
regrets if you don't want to.
let's just say that I also am a very rare personality type, what they might call a sigma and an empath. And it's always
Okay.
been weird to me. Like a lot of people don't talk about this. Uh, it's weird to me that other people can't just like sense and feel other people's emotions, which I can. I can feel their energy field, and apparently that a lot of people block that out. And so uh, lately, in the last few years, a lot of things have been dawning on me. Like, oh, I see and feel things a lot differently than most people. And that's why they think I'm so effing weird, when I say stuff, because I don't know that it's
You know
uncommon.
you know how you think
Yeah.
everybody must feel this way because you feel
Yeah.
this way.
I'm trapped in me. And I
Right.
do have empathy for others, but I'm still trapped in me.
Of
Like,
course. Of
so
course.
I wrongfully assume that other people, can see the type of things that I see.
Right.
And with Kai, I'm just like, this guy's a maniac. Like right away, I can tell that he's using fake emotions and he's not really engaged and he's being manipulated. Well, not right away. It was after he said the part about the orchard, and
Mm-hmm.
then I think I said this earlier, and then the veil came off and the spell was broken, and then I could see it. But he did have me fooled. So um so there's that.
You
Okay.
know, coolest reviews.
Hmm.
Our Samantha, she's our Sam to me, but she's
Yeah,
Samantha in
Samantha
here.
Doom. Yeah,
Done.
you're ours now, Samantha.
She's
You heard it from Jen Lu first.
well, Sam is incredibly gifted in these types of things, explanations. She's sensitive. She she's very good at this kind of stuff, and
Oh,
she has her
excellent.
own channel, and she is live over there. Sam, I'm gonna do your
Yeah. All right.
background for you, babe.
All right,
I do-
Samantha. I
so
would
you
love
got to
it
go over to
if you
Sam
got,
and she'll explain all this stuff. She's
yes.
so good.
please get in touch with me. I have heard that it's called Awakening.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sam
Um,
is incredibly intuitive and sensitive
I've
and
been this
very,
way
very good at explaining
my whole life, but
things.
uh, if it weren't for YouTube, then I wouldn't know uh, what it was or anything. So, as much as I do complain about YouTube and certain policies and whatnot, I just want to make it clear on the record. I am incredibly grateful for the people that it has connected me to and the things that I've learned and the way I've been able to grow as a human being and like
Mhm.
help me heal my own soul. Because let's face it, we can only heal our own soul and some of those, um, just whatever you want to call it, traumas,
Mhm.
stuff that I think Kai could have worked on, but he was um, distracted, being, they call it a transient, right? Or a drifter.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
he,
transient. Mhm.
I think he could have done a lot better if he could have settled down somewhere and, you know, had the internet to research and spent his time, um, you know, learning some of these wonderful, beautiful things rather
Mhm.
than having to struggle so much for his survival all the time. And I mean, you know, getting sustenance and a warm enough place to
Basic
stay.
needs. Yeah, just the
Yeah, basic
basics.
needs, basic needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, there's another part of me that sort of sees just this cold blooded, sadistic, horrible person. And let me just let me just read over my notes real quick, and you can
Okay.
stop me if this is not
No,
coming
you're
off
fine.
quite right because
No,
my
no, no,
notes
you're
are kind
fine.
of sporadic. But all
No,
right,
do it how you want to do it.
words that he used in that 2013 interview with Jessup. Like,
Wait, before you start, I'm
sure,
going to mute. I'll be in
okay,
chat, but I've got
you're
to
gonna
have a
mute.
cigarette. So you're just not going to
Oh,
hear me, but
oh, great! You get to have a cigarette, and I don't get to go
you
pee.
can
Great.
go have a cigarette if you want to. I
No,
just have
I
to
don't
go
smoke
outside
cigarettes,
and
but I
I can't take my
I'm just
computer
busting your
outside.
chops again.
Stop busting my chops.
Why? You love
I
it.
don't a little bit I do. I don't like for anybody to just be pushed over. I don't like to push
Yeah.
anybody over. It gets
Yeah, and
boring. I
I
like a
do a
little
little bit of
conflict.
shoving, in a loving sort of way on my own. I love to tease my friends. I'm a big tease.
I need a lot.
It's true.
I need conflict. It's good for me. I need for people not to just automatically agree with everything I say. I don't like an
Yeah.
echo chamber. It's boring. I don't even like my voice. So I
Oh,
sure as hell
really?
don't need no, I hate it. And
Why?
I just don't like the way I sound. And I get comments all the time about the music. And I'm like, okay,
What music?
the background music I use. And really
Hmm.
because I can't stand to listen to my voice. And so I feel like the music takes a little off of my voice. But I has said that starting in 2023, there will be an intro music and that's it. And I don't want to hear anything from anybody about my voice. I done warned you. I tried to
Shut the
take
fuck
the
up.
edge off with the music. You didn't want that. Now you get nothing but Jen, all my voice, no background, nothing in these
Well,
videos.
I
And see
don't
how you like it.
I don't know how many of my videos you've watched and
I
whatnot,
watch all
but
your videos.
oh, all of them? Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm over there every time you premiere.
Oh, well,
Sometimes I just don't
you,
chat.
you should, so I know you're there. It would be
Sorry.
awesome to know. Uh, so sometimes I get a little bit lonely on my channel. I'll
Aw.
just be admitting it. Be truthful about that one. And then at the same time, I'm not huge into growing my channel to
Yeah.
be enormous or something.
Right,
Um,
right.
Now that I've spent enough time on YouTube, I love this idea of a close knit people that you can trust and, you know, really love and, you know, just, you know, that they got your back and they're not trolling you or making fun of you or something like that, you know, because there's plenty of people that show up on
Oh
my
yeah.
channel where I think, on the surface, it looks like they're being nice, but it really feels like a backhanded compliment type of thing.
Oh, see, I don't ever
And
even worry about that. I take everybody in chat at face value, and if I mean, all my regulars, but when it's a new
mhm.
person, I take it at face value until there's a reason for me not to. My head is too filled with other things, and that I
Yeah,
can't
right.
worry about stuff like if I worried about stuff like that, I don't think I'd ever go live. I used to worry about it. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I used to
I don't go live. I'm making an
Look at
exception
some
for you
shoes. I
and a
know.
curious Rose, and unless anybody else that I trust on your level, then no, I'm not doing it. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm just very self-conscious of my voice, and so I put music to it
right,
because
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you noticed, but I always hide a lot of everything with music. So there's always a layer of music that I use to because I don't
but
want to spend a lot of time editing. On my professional voice work, I spend a lot of time editing. I take out every breath, every
yeah,
like smack of my lips or anything that
I can
sounds
hear it
human.
on mine too, and it drives me nuts. But after
Yeah.
a while, I can't edit anymore, and I'm just like, fuck it.
But on my YouTube, I don't care as much, so I just put music at a certain
Mm-hmm.
level, and I try to get really good at mixing levels. It's just something that I've been passionate about and doing for decades now. When you mix music, you know how to put vocals in, and the vocals are
Yeah.
loudest, then the drums are next, and then the guitar, and then the bass for rock music in general. And then for every band, it varies a little bit. So for something like Nine Inch Nails or Tool, I don't even know how they mix it so well. It's they have so many instruments and such a mix of things. Like Tool, for
Yeah.
example, the bass has to be a lot louder than most bands, and you
Mm-hmm.
just have to know it intuitively. There isn't any sort of class. I mean, there are guidelines that you can
Right.
learn, and it helps a lot. But there's no set rule. You just have to have an ear for it.
I think
So.
yeah, and I just but lately on my like pre-recorded videos, they're like the one I did on Chandler Halderson. It doesn't offend me because I take it like this is what this is feedback. So if you put content out there, you have to be ready to get feedback, and I always take it as constructive criticism. I mean, I can tell when it's constructive criticism.
I would like more feedback. I'm talking about
Yeah,
certain people that troll.
right.
They
I
make it
don't
unpleasant
usually
for my other fans. That's what I
Yeah,
don't
I
like.
don't
It's like,
usually get that as much as I used to. I used to on my West Memphis 3 stuff, but lately
mhm,
I haven't got I don't really get the trolls, but it's
sure.
whatever. But I take it as constructive criticism. And on Chandler's I had one track. It didn't change. It was ran the length of the whole video, and the volume was at 1. It was barely, I don't even know, but she said it was too much, and I thought about, all right, well, I could download the video again, and there is an app where you can, I wouldn't have to do anything other than upload it to this app and then take the music out. But I got busy doing something else, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to go worry about fixing any other videos that I made. I'm just going to, from this time forward, there'll be introduction music, and that's it. The rest of the time, I'm not going to try to elicit emotion using anything other than my voice.
Oh, but it's
There's
such a good
no
trick.
dramatic effect, none of that, because I people don't like it, I guess.
Hmm. Well, the music that you're using, does it have lyrics and singing, or is it
No,
just
usually
instrumental?
it's just instrumental. I don't
Yeah,
like to
see,
put
that should
music. I don't
exactly,
think it's a good combo when you're speaking to have lyrics.
exactly. Well, yeah,
It's
that
too
was
confusing.
the point I was gonna make. But no, you don't make that mistake. Of course you don't. So,
Oh, listen, my what I really wanted to be when I grew up is I didn't want to be, it's not really the sound. I didn't want to do the score to a movie because then you have to actually be able to write music, and that's not my bag.
I
But
love writing music.
I'm not good at it. But I do know, I like I have a jukebox in my brain all the time, and I know
Don't we
like
all? Is that
not
another
every
one of those things where I'm
it's
different?
not no, and not everybody has one of those. And I there are certain songs that
Oh my
you
god.
can play during a scene that
I'm gonna lose it right
elicit
now.
and evoke something, and that I'm good at. That I'm good at picking a song for. Like, but
You
yeah.
know,
So
I
anyway,
want a freaking soundtrack. I want to have speakers like attached to my shoulders. You've seen Lost Highway by
yeah,
David Lynch, yeah?
yeah. I
Um,
love David Lynch.
it's been so long since I've seen that movie, but there's like Eddie's theme or something.
Mm-hmm.
One of
I
those
started
songs.
watching Twin Peaks again.
Yeah, one of those songs that I just freaking want like that playing every time I walk into
Yes.
the room, like
Well,
doom.
I always
Oh yeah, in
say,
the Twin Peaks, that doom 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 doom
yes,
doom
my
doom
my
doom
um my
doom doom.
soundtrack would be the Imperial Death March.
Oh,
Dun
that one too.
dun
Yes.
dun dun. Because I want
Dun
people
dun
to know
dun
I'm
dun dun
into
dun
like
dun dun
whenever
dun.
Dr. B and I are like gonna go watch
Oh
something or whatever, um I'll send her that gif of Vader boarding
yeah.
Leia's ship and it says prepare for my arrival. And yeah, like I
Yeah.
constantly
Oh
think that the
well,
Imperial Death March
you're
is
gonna
my
love
theme.
this. Way
Hmm.
back when, I've never had a lot of money. I've always been real poor. So like I worked at a dollar store in my town, not this
Hmm.
town, but a different town. And I walked there every day and it would take, I don't know, 30 to 45 minutes or something like that. And every day I'd have the Imperial March like going in my head and I would have like this certain posture where I'd grip one arm with another hand and just being like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And I get that posture and I go into my
Yes.
place in my head where I was like, okay, at work, you shut the fuck up. You keep your fucking mouth shut. You hear me? And you
Yeah.
do your job. And you
Do
don't
your
talk to
job.
nobody unless they ask you something. And then you tell where it is. And you do it. And you're professional. And you don't talk about nothing. And
Right.
so even back then, I was smart enough to know that things that I say get me into trouble.
Right.
Um, and not,
I've always known that. Sometimes I care
yeah,
and sometimes I don't.
yeah. Well, I have a feeling you're a lot smarter than me. So.
Sometimes I care and sometimes I don't. But yes, Heather, to answer your uh, question, it, the accident occurred and then the reporter showed up, but he also went and did a follow up interview with Kai.
Yeah, and the
That was
follow-up
shown like,
interview.
I don't know, like 3 weeks, 3 or 4 days later. Okay, read your notes. I'm going to go
Yeah,
have a cigarette.
the
Okay.
follow-up interview you just have to see for yourself.
Yeah, you do.
I
I'll link
don't
it
know if we
in
want to
the.
talk about that,
No,
or
I'm not
you
going to
can if you
talk
want
about it.
to.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
I'm just going
exactly.
to
It's
link it in the description
we'll
because
just say it's
he's.
very dark and brutal might be one of the words we could
But
use as
that
well.
part is in the documentary. What was aired on the
A
news and
censored
what's
version is in the
on.
doc.
No, the one that he. Just go
No, they
read your note.
feature it, but they don't show the whole thing.
No, they don't show the whole thing, but they show the part in they show the part that wasn't aired on the news in the documentary. They edited out the worst parts of
Sure, yeah.
that,
Well,
for the news, and they
who
put it
could
in the
blame them?
documentary. No, I don't, but you won't be able to find it online. You got to watch it on the document. I mean, you could find the interview, but you won't find the part we're talking about online because I looked for it. No, the smash was he got okay, so the guy smashed into he drove into a group of PG&E workers and pinned one of the employees between his vehicle and their work truck. And then these two women rushed over to try to help. And the man, Jet McBride, turned and started attacking the woman. And that's when Kai got the hatchet and used the dull side and smash. That's what
And,
happened. That's
and we
when that
never hear those
happens.
two women's full story. I don't know why that is, but that seems
I'll
suspicious to
send
me
you
as
the
well.
link. I'll send you
Oh,
the link.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'll
So
send
it's
you the
just that
link.
I
You couldn't.
didn't research, and I
It's
did look
not
for
research.
stuff.
It's you. There is this. I've found the trick, and even
Okay,
sometimes
yeah.
it's hard for me, even on YouTube. All right, you read
Well,
your notes. I'm
when
for
I
real's
get my
gonna go
phone
have a smoke.
reactivated, we might have to
Okay,
talk on the phone. You can tell me some
I'll
trade
show you.
secrets, and if you
Absolutely.
want to hear what I know about making, post production or whatever,
Yes.
we'll just have a
Yes.
conversation.
We'll
It will
have
be
a
fun. I am
conversation. All
looking
right.
forward to that
Me
for sure.
too. Me
So,
too. All right. You
um,
read your
so all
notes, and
right,
I'll be
yes, I
right
will read
back.
my
Okay.
notes. All right.
All right. You have the
I
floor.
have to do the
Coolest reviews is
obligatory
in.
throat clear.
There you go. Coolest reviews
And
is in charge
then
now.
pump
He's
the
running the
microphone.
stream.
Just had to do it. Had to do
All
it.
right. All right. We'll be right back.
What? Did anybody in chat think that I'm not a jerk? Oh, hello. I'm CR. I'm a jerk. So now you know. All right. Some of the things that came across to me in the whole interview, the very first interview with Jessup in 2013, was Kai's language. I listened to it very carefully a couple of times. You might not catch it. I didn't the first 2 or 2 times or something. He specifically says after the car pins Neely that he uses the words, my buddy. He's like, my buddy was sitting next to me. All right, so, oh, no, wait, no, here, my notes. He says, my buddy gets out. And then he stops and thinks about it. And then he says that Kai says that Kai gets out first. And I was always sort of wondering, how did that happen exactly? He has to get out of the passenger side. Did he go around the car, or did he like jump over the hood? Probably not, because Neely's right there, like pinned to the hood. Later, I found out that there was more time where not Galfy, McBride was allegedly hugging or grabbing this woman and smacking her on the back. So there would have been plenty of time. And Kai does say he gets out, he grabs his backpack, he grabs the keys, he throws the backpack, then he gets the hatchet out of the backpack, I guess goes around the car, and then hits McBride. But if you want to go back and watch it, he calls McBride his buddy. So I thought that was very strange. I think that back at the recycling center, there was something going on. They had a whole exchange. Kai obviously projects quite a bit. So, was that something that Kai did in the Virgin Islands or somewhere else and felt the need to shut up McBride? And why do we never hear McBride's whole story? Of course, Jen Lou was telling me that maybe we can, and I just haven't been able to find that. Another thing, a lot of Kai, I feel like he's projecting. He was talking about how McBride got up after he was hit and was doing a certain act over by a school or whatever building that was, which I think you guys all know what I'm talking about. If that had actually happened, why wouldn't something like Netflix capitalize on that? Why wouldn't other people capitalize on that and really talk about that if there's other witnesses that would attest to it? I think that there was definitely something, and not to put down Galfy or put words in their mouth, Galfy or McBride, but I think there was something sexual going on. I think the forensic evidence states that, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that particular act. However, I think that whatever deep-seated programming that Kai has in his head, he is ashamed and feels the need to just erase the evidence of what he was doing. He feels embarrassed about it. Hey, I get it. I felt embarrassed about certain things that, weren't wrong. It's just sort of like, I'm not going to say that word or talk about, my particular tastes in women or something like that on a chat like this. I just don't think that it's appropriate. And if I did say something like that, I would probably be embarrassed. We don't have to take it to the level that Kai did. We know that he was very disturbed at a young age. He talks about how he had that demon in the crib. He smashed the guy's head in the orchard. So, like I was saying before, I think he has a habit of this. I think he's done it multiple times. I think one of the reasons why he didn't want to do any more interviews is because he didn't want to slip up and talk about more people that he had smashed their heads in and left the bodies. And, I'm not saying anything bad about detectives. I think they have a very difficult job. I think they walk in on a scene. They're trying not to assume anything. They're trying to look at the evidence and not convict the wrong person, because I think most police officers, I think they are good people and they don't want to convict the wrong person. And they're very careful about, how they research the evidence, and they make mistakes. They're human, but they don't want to send the wrong person to prison for, crimes. And it isn't even to save face. It's because I think deep down they have a moral code or compass that they just don't want to be doing something like that. I know I
I
wouldn't.
think by and large, most police officers, law enforcement are good people, and detectives, I
I
think
do
you're right,
too.
coolest reviews. I think
I've
that
I've
they
had the
have,
misfortune to have to talk to a few of them, and they've always treated me with respect.
yeah. I mean, I feel like they have this. I think there's a certain type of person that is attracted to law enforcement and true crime. And I think that there's a because I know it about I know it in myself. There is I have a need in myself to fix wrongs. So when I see something injustices, so like that's why I was so I researched so carefully and for so long with the West Memphis Three because I was never going to advocate for child killers. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's
And
certain crimes that just are
yeah,
too much.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
like, okay,
But there are
you know,
times when, but
you
I
cross the line.
that's
There's crossing the line, and then there's crossing the line.
oh, I will I can't believe I haven't seen it yet either. Cement Shoes, but yeah, like I think that there are it's a personality. There's something about your personality that just wants to right wrongs, and I think that's why they go into being police officers and they go into law enforcement and even prosecutors and attorneys. I
Hmm.
think so.
Yeah,
And on the
but
even on the other side, when you're a defense attorney, you're there to make sure that the defendant's rights aren't trampled
yeah.
on or
And what if
taken.
they aren't guilty? What if they are innocent of the crime? You
Exactly.
want to be on top of your game, you know?
Exactly. So for me, like I do think that I don't I have noticed a trend lately with true crime where people are really speaking negatively about about law enforcement detectives in particular and the way that they do their
Hmm.
jobs or don't do their jobs or whatever, and I feel
Yeah,
like
because they're human and they make mistakes.
well, right, but sometimes they actually haven't even made a mistake yet, but they're being criticized. Do you know what I mean? And
I
and there's
I
an
know what you mean,
element
but
of
I don't.
conspiracy around it, like they're
Oh,
working
okay.
together to keep something hidden. And the truth of the matter is,
Sometimes that is the
it
case, and it's
sometimes, but
unfortunate.
but it's rare. It's not all the time, and it's very
Sure,
rare. And the thing of it
exactly.
is that what I think some people forget about is it's the investigation doesn't stop with the arrest. It continues.
Oh
And
yeah,
then
that's
you have the trial. So we're not going to know everything about a crime in the beginning, and we won't know about the crime, really all the finer points and the details of a crime until the trial comes, which is why I like the trials, because
yeah,
then
and I think we
you
should find
know
somebody who Kai trusts and give him 2 bottles of Jack Daniels and just let him talk. I mean, who knows? We'll
who knows
find
what
out
he'll
if my
say.
theory's right. How many people have you killed, Kai? Well, a few times. you know,
All the way killed or kind of killed.
yeah, yeah. That was another thing. I hate to stoop this low, but Kai could have been a serial killer. But let's face it, he didn't kill Neely, didn't finish the job. He didn't kill McBride, didn't finish that job. The guy in the orchard, we're not sure about. That would have
Right,
made 3 right there.
right.
Galfy, he definitely killed. So
Yeah,
if you're not at 3, you're not a serial killer. I know
with
I
a break, a
call him a
cooling
serial
off
killer all
period
the
too.
time. I
You gotta have
personally think. Oh, what was that?
you have to have a cooling off period too. Otherwise, you're just a spree killer.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so for Kai, the
Absolutely. Yeah, you
break
have to be a
would
little
have
bit more
been
calculated.
the 90, the roughly almost 90 days between, is a little over 90 between the situation with McBride and Galfy would have been the necessary cooling off period. Well,
Yeah,
you're getting a lot of conspiratorial comments, Mo. Is that what you're saying, babe?
he could have gotten a lot more in, and it's. I just got to say it. Kai's a fuck up. What can I
Well,
say? Can't do anything right.
I just want to get my pause on this interrogation video because I feel like
Oh, I would love to see that.
I feel like they played the majority of it in the documentary because I don't think it is incredibly long. As far as I'm sure that it's long, like length, time wise, there's a lot of it, but when the actual him talking is probably not that long. You know, I think they showed the majority of when he was talking. There's some things that
Sure.
they left out, but you know, for the most part, yeah.
All right, something else I haven't gotten to, and I think merits at least thinking about or hearing.
Okay.
Um, he is definitely running from something. He won't say his real name, and I know I stole this from that video I sent you. And I was thinking this, but they brought it to my conscious level. So
Okay.
he's
Oh, the
definitely running from
interview room.
something. Yeah.
Okay. I mean
Whatever it's
the
called.
behavior
The behavior
panel.
panel, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
something
know
like
why I
that.
said the
Something
interview
like
room. Chris
oh, well,
McDonough was on my mind for some reason.
say no more. He's
I
definitely
don't know
running from
why.
something. He won't give his real name. Come on, like, do we really believe he doesn't know his own age? I can't
Right.
call it. I can't
Yeah.
call my own age. I don't know what my birthday is. Like, seriously, like and then he gives that little wink, like that. They called it Duper's delight. Now, that was the first time I had heard Duper's delight, but it makes total sense to me what that means.
Right.
Let's see, he smashes people in the head. Yeah, so he has this, in my opinion, a fetish of smashing people's heads for whatever reason. The guy in the orchard, McBride, uh, the case of Galfy, where he actually stomps his head in, which I
Yeah.
don't know if anyone here has played LA Noire, but like, that just like brings up memories of that game.
Yeah.
God, that
I've
was
never
brutal.
played it, but I've watched it be played. So
Yeah, it's something. That
yeah,
was
it
one of my
is.
favorite games, but it's because I got to be a detective and I love that kind of stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
man, it was just like, wow, Rockstar can actually make a game like this. It's brutal and real in a way realistic. I get that it's not
Right.
realistic, but yeah, that was something else. Let's see. All right, so we've covered this. Punching. All right. So I think that Kai projects about a lot of things. I covered that. Um, so yeah, covered that. Uh, the language throughout the interview.
Mm-hmm.
This is some of the things that Kai said that just sort of. Uh, oh, and before I go into anything else, just real quick, McNeely. No, not Mc. Or it's actually just Neely. Ray Neely was the
Mm-hmm.
victim. McBride. All right,
Mm-hmm.
McBride at the tiny bit of the trial we get to see, he seemed to have some real remorse. He was like, "I'm sorry, Neely,"
He
and
did. He did
you could hear it in his
apologize and he
voice.
cried. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could, something was up there. I do think he was genuine. Um, Being an empath, I can only really feel somebody's energy field within a certain distance. It's a proximity thing, but so I have to really carefully listen to his voice. I think he was being genuine. Kai never showed any sort of remorse. He either justified what he did or, bragged about it. He's like, smash, 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 yeah. And like, that guy's dead. Good. You can hear it in his voice.
Right.
Like Kai feels no any kind of remorse. He doesn't feel like anything he's done is wrong or questionable. It's just unsettling. But some of the language that he used in the interview, I would have dabbed him up back there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know what dabbed in this context means. To me, it's a drug reference, but they were talking about the joint and everything and dabs. For
Mm-hmm.
those of you that know, it's legal in my state. Like dabs are like a super potent weed type of thing. Um, I don't mess with that because like, I'm just not into it. I could take like a tiny bit and that's it for me. But
Right.
it's a very potent
It's a high
THC
concentration
thing.
of THC. Yeah.
Yes, high concentration. So, but dabbed him up. In this case, he's using it as slang for killing.
Yeah.
I lured him away from the crowd. Okay, so in the context he was saying it in, he was trying to say, I'm trying to get this dangerous person away from the crowd, so I lured him away from the crowd. But I wonder if the wording that he used reflects on some other things he did, like if he was in a homeless camp or something like that. There's lots of
Mm.
ways to lure somebody away from the
Mm-hmm.
camp or prying eyes, that kind of thing, whether it was sexual favors, whether it was drugs, which it's strongly implied that Kai was doing both of those things, which those things alone, I'm totally fine with. I don't think either of those things should be illegal or any of that stuff. I don't think prostitution should be illegal. I don't think a lot of things should be illegal because it just makes a bigger problem, like, say, prohibition during the 1920s.
Yeah.
But, however, the wording stood out to me that he
Okay.
specifically uses the word lure. And there was something about that that just stuck with me and I just couldn't let go. I lured him
It
away
is an
from the
interesting.
crowd.
It is a very interesting choice. It's a choice of words. Lure implies something sinister. Actually,
Yeah.
the word lure
No,
implies something.
I get exactly
Yeah,
what you're saying.
sinister. Yeah.
And it's just a strange word in my opinion to use. There would have been a hell of a lot more bodies.
That's
I mean, just think
interesting.
about this. This is the type of stuff he was
It's
vying to talk about. You could tell
yeah.
he was like, oh, I get to be in front of a camera and talk about this stuff. And he's like winking and giving these real douchey
Hmm.
faces. He's eating it up. He's loving talking about this in a way that he thinks he's going to get away with it. Or at least that's what I got out of it.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
there would be, it's like he grabbed her, he could break her neck like a pencil stick. He was so animated when he's talking about this. Like, has he broke somebody's neck before? Is that like another one of his obsessions? Like, he obviously loves smashing heads, but well, that's all I really want to say about it because it's kind of grossing me out sometimes.
Okay. I
just
got
like
you.
just like playing LA Noir.
He
It was
does.
fun to be a detective, but
He has some tells. There's some. He uses some interesting phrases, choices of words. I started watching the behavior panel, their
mhm.
assessment of Kai, but then it
Oh,
got to be
have you
where
not gotten through it?
not the whole thing because I'm
Okay.
keeping an I okay, so you guys know that I've been doing Murdoch and then Aiden Fucci, which I haven't done a whole lot of research into Fucci. I have the gist of it, and so I'm prepared enough to go through the trial with you guys. But um, I'm still working on Stephen Smith's video because I want to have it just right, and I want to tell the story a certain way that so it'll all make sense, And so when I'm doing that, I'm watching other things, but I'm also working at the same time. I'm always doing like 3 or 4 things at once.
Yes,
My brain is
you
just
are, and I am
constantly.
too. And I think we can relate to each other in that type of way because um, we're, I think you and I are always just working on so many things and we're juggling it in our head. But if we
Mhm.
weren't, then we would get too bored.
I would,
And
yeah.
for me, like I just drink way too much if I'm bored. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like that's one of the things I try to stay away from
right,
because
right.
like, being a drunk's not a good look. I'm never
No,
bragging about
no,
that. But
no, no,
on the
no.
other hand, I'll be honest about it. But yeah,
I know
so
what you mean. I know what
so
you're saying. I got you.
I have to take like a 2-3 minute break, and so just so you know, I'm gonna mute my microphone and I will be
Okay.
right back.
Okay.
And
All
and
right.
then I do have my final point, the point that I've been leading up to this
Okay.
entire time. So if
Okay.
it's right for me to talk about it after this little break,
No, I want you
um,
to, because then
okay,
I wanna wrap it up because
sure,
I
absolutely,
it's
because
Sunday
yeah,
night and I got shit to do. I didn't
yeah,
do today because I was doing other
oh,
stuff.
got so much to do tomorrow also. So
I do too. So yeah, I got a lot. It's gonna be a
all
busy.
right,
It's gonna be a busy. Go take your break.
yep, microphone is muted.
Okay. Wow. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Kai and this situation. First of all, his real name, like his government name, is Caleb McGilvery. That's his name. I don't know where he came up with Kai. His family was surprised when they found out that that's the name that he was using. It means something, but I can't remember exactly what it means. And I just think that I will say this. I would really like for Netflix to do a follow-up. I would like for them to delve more deeply into Kai's history. Um as much as they can. I mean, obviously, you cannot make people talk to you. But I would imagine that there have got to be people that Kai grew up with or was around that know him, or I I want to I also want to know, like, I just want to know his background, because I feel that there is something there that nothing in his background will justify what happened and what he did. But I'm always people who do things like this. Um, I always am looking for their thought process. What is going on in their head? And I will say that Jet McBride did have genuine remorse. He apologized and cried profusely to the victim. And he was at a Tescadero, the mental hospital in California, and yes, Heather, that's an excellent way to put it. Warrior or keeper of the, absolutely. There, you know, and I just feel like what's such a bummer about this whole situation, obviously, is that a man lost his life. That's first and foremost, right? But I also think that there was a missed opportunity there. Like, Kai had a moment that not very many people get. And I think that he could have made a difference with his experience of being homeless and what it's like to be. It's different when you are like an adult, like an established adult, and you causes something happens and you become homeless, right? Where you're versus like somebody Kai's age, who was 18, aged out of the system with not a whole lot, with no like skills, to be to get gainful employment. Plus, the fact of the matter is he was illegally here in the United States. You know what I mean? So I just exactly, cement shoes. There is something there. There's something there, and this is why I go back to feeling like potentially this is not all of her victims, just the one. An Eileen Warno situation. The God, I can't think of his name right now. He's from Clearwater, but he had a record. And I just, I'm always looking for. I know that we can't prevent everything from ever happening. Like, there's not gonna the force isn't balanced. If you have to have good and evil in order to have balance, right? But I think that there are some situations, some people that if we understood more, perhaps we could prevent people from turning into Kais. You know what I mean? There are some people that
And
you can't.
I don't
but
think Kai was redeemable. Just what I'm getting out of it. I think he was one of those people that was actually pure evil. But
Thank you,
that's
cement shoes.
that's
Yes,
just
this
what
is
I think.
Mallory. Yeah, I mean, but the thing
But
is that
I
we
get
don't. I
most
don't.
most people could have been redeemed.
Right.
I agree 100% with what you're saying. I'm just saying that Kai might actually be one of those people that was just like, maybe a demon did enter him in the crib,
A
and he's
devil.
just because I believe in that metaphysical
I do.
level
I
and
believe
real.
it too. I will say
I
this.
I'm pretty sure you do. In fact,
Yeah,
there's
of
a
course I do.
video where you were talking about it, and I got distracted talking to my brother, which is a great thing. It's like
Right. Yeah.
family,
No,
family's family. But
you're
like,
not going to be in trouble for getting
yeah,
distracted on this
I'm
channel.
I
Believe me, I get
missed
distracted all
your
the
whole
time.
live, and you were talking about like different beings and like dimension. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I looked for that video and I couldn't find it, and I'm so curious what you have to say about that. So maybe
I
another
believe in all
time,
that stuff. Yeah,
or
I
on the
need to
phone
have.
or
I want
something
to
where
have
we're not on
Sam
the
up.
internet. But
Sam and I wanted to do
like a because I do believe in all of that stuff. But what I'm saying
I
is,
know it's real.
like, I think,
I've
like with
experienced it.
Eileen Warnos, the way that her life was as a child, okay, up until she was, a teenager and then a young adult, et cetera, et cetera. If somebody had intervened when she was young, she wouldn't. I
Oops,
don't think
sorry.
she would have ever done the things that she did.
I'll
She
mute.
is somebody that was redeemable. She just had circumstances that were beyond her control as a child and a teenager and a young adult. And I think that we have to do, as a society, we have to do better. I think that's my whole point, and that's why that's why I'm also fascinated by true crime, because I want to understand the thought process, so that it's not, in my mind, it's not enough to talk about the problem. You got to we should be trying to think of a solution. I think we all know what the problems are, but I don't hear a lot of talk about a solution, and that's where I'm at. I think I just, I think we need to do better in this country for mental health too.
Yeah,
But,
I agree. That's a great point.
mhm. So, but
Yeah,
what was your
we
going to
have to
be
take it.
your, like,
Oh, well, as
I
I
want
was
to know.
looking over my notes real quick, like a few
Mhm.
things I have to say real quick. I don't think will take
Okay,
long.
okay. No, you're fine.
In the documentary, it was the first time I had seen McBride's injuries. And I was curious because I saw him in the courtroom and I was thinking it doesn't look like his head has been cleaved in with a hatchet. But the injury, that it wasn't that deep, so I could understand with the comb over how maybe the scar wasn't showing up. But
Hmm.
what the hell was with his hand? How did his hand get so damn injured?
Oh, I don't.
His
It,
finger looked like it had been
oh,
stomped on.
probably because he was trying to cover his head. He was trying to protect his head with his
Oh,
hands.
oh, okay. Yep. That's, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. So there we go. um, that might very well be the explanation. Um, Another one, that stupid fucking uh, pitch, not pitchfork, but a rake. What if the assailant had shoved her down, and then while she was on the ground, he or she lifted the rake and got that kind of leverage, like the opposite of choking up on the bat, like choked way down on it
Hmm.
and swung it while they were standing and she was prone. Maybe then the rake could have penetrated that jacket, which let me tell you, it was a
Oh, you're
loose
back on the
jacket.
corn. The
Yeah.
corn rake
I'm
killer.
sporadic as fuck, and
Okay.
this has been bothering
Took
me
me a
ever
minute.
since our first live. Like I
Oh,
just had,
yeah, Todd
it's like
Mullis, and I still
so
don't know where that damn yellow cup is. So
yeah,
nobody ask me.
that loose jacket would have
Uh-huh.
put up a lot of resistance.
Uh-huh.
So if you're wearing a tight T-shirt, it's easier to poke right through it or penetrate it.
Right, right.
But a loose jacket will offer up friction or resistance. So it would have been much harder to actually penetrate something through her body. So I thought maybe she was prone and the assailant was standing. Like
Oh, that's a
maybe
good
that
point.
explains it. I
That's a
don't
good
know.
point.
That's just I couldn't help but think about that one.
All right.
All right, so that one's done.
Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on.
All right. All right. This was the main point that just kept like jumping out my brain about Kai. First of all, we tend to worship people that we really like their art or music or movie stars and that kind of stuff. And we almost get blinded to their terrible or evil actions.
Right.
Um,
Or who they
and
really are as a person.
yeah, and we're blinded to it. And I'm the same way, but I've been waking up to it a lot lately. Certain musicians that I used to defend, like they would
Really?
do terrible actions, and I'd read their biography, and I'd be like, but I like their music, and like it's okay when they do it. And then all of a sudden, I just woke up to it, and I'm like, no, it's not okay when they do it. It's worse when they do it because then it's like people worship them like a role model or something,
Right.
and can justify, oh well, my favorite musician did that, or for some people it's movie stars, and there's a few very famous movie stars that are on trial for very brutal crimes. I don't keep up with it. I don't know if they're guilty or innocent or what, but still,
Right.
that's the kind of veil that we pull over our own eyes, and only we have control of pulling up that veil and seeing things clearly. We've got to have some self-reflection and go to
Right.
that place and really, question ourselves sometimes.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
Kai, he right away. Okay, so in the very first part of the interview, you see him and his body posture is hunched over and he looks guilty and he looks scared. And the first thing he says is, "I'm one of the heroes." And then, they talked about this on that panel, that YouTube. That's what brought it to my consciousness. But I remember thinking that on a more subconscious level. It's like, and then he straightens up and then he starts doing these facial expressions that's like the duper's delight. It's like, well, I'm Kai, straight out of Dogtown. But before I get into that, and then he's buttering up the audience. He knows how to do
Right.
that. He knows how to redirect. A lot of people don't hear, well, you're worthwhile, you're lovable, that kind of stuff. People eat that up. Hey, me too. I'm not dissing on it. I'm just saying, as soon as coolest review sounds like me. Well, thank you, Samantha Dune. I'm sure that's a compliment.
It is.
I don't. It's an insult to you, but a compliment
It
to
is
me.
not.
So
Stop it. Don't be so self-deprecating.
I love the self-deprecating
I do
humor.
too, but
I'm
sometimes
just teasing.
yeah,
I have a lot of self-love.
you have
I'm
to.
an arrogant, conceited, or whatever the word is, bastard, of course.
Stop it.
But no, really, stop insulting yourself like that, Samantha Dune. That self-deprecating humor is not cool.
I love self-deprecating
Well, I know,
humor,
but like I was
sometimes,
turning it around,
You
like on
are.
her,
You are. I
like
see what
in a
you're
joking
doing.
way.
I
Love
gotcha.
you. And speaking of that, I do honestly mean that in a genuine way. If people are trying to butter you up or anything like that, don't necessarily discard it as disingenuous right away, but pull up a little bit of guard, pay close attention, try to, if you can't feel it, try to see it. Are they being actually genuine, or are they trying to butter you up for the next little message they're going to slip in? I think Kai
Right.
was trying to butter us up. And then a lot of people were trying to paint him as this hero. They weren't even questioning if he might have been involved in causing that car wreck.
Right.
They just like
weren't.
assume that he was the hero, and that's that. It's just black and white. It's just good and evil. There's no in between.
Right.
And I think he had a big hand in it. I don't think that car wreck would have occurred if Kai was not in the car. However he did it, whether it was through drugging him and suggestion, or if it was
Right.
through actually grabbing the steering wheel, like some witnesses claim.
Mhm.
Could Kai have grabbed the underside of the steering wheel,
Right.
where
Where
you
you
don't
couldn't
see what his
see it.
hand is doing nearly as well? Those are important questions. And, I would like to hope, if I was one of the police at that interrogation, that I would have kept Kai in a holding cell and interrogated him a couple of times and just
Mhm.
see if his story changes and that kind of thing. And those interviews are taped, right? So you can go back and look at the footage and really study
Right.
it.
And
And that's
compare. Yeah.
important.
It's
Um,
important.
yeah, you
It's
don't catch
important.
things. You don't catch
It's
things. The
important.
camera
And
catches everything.
I think too with McBride, I think the problem, first of all, he was injured. It wasn't a fatal injury. It was a severe injury, but it wasn't a fatal injury.
And it
But
was
he
a head
wasn't
injury.
in a position to give his side of the story either. So
Exactly.
we, and then that with the mental health issue with McBride, I think that um, he may have said something that maybe was dismissed as he's just talking crazy. I don't like this word, but it's no only way I can think to put it right now. Like he may have said something
Batshit crazy? Or,
that, well, no, that maybe they
no.
were thinking he's just talking crazy. That couldn't have happened. He's just, he's crazy. Maybe he tried to tell them something about Kai and they dismissed it. We don't know.
What did they say? You're speculating, or was there something that
I am speculating. I am
okay.
speculating
because
there-
apparently at the trial he
are-
says that Kai grabbed the wheel.
there are yes, and there's some there's conflicting. I'm it's when you have conflicting eyewitness accounts are
Are
tricky
always conflicting. Always.
in and of themselves, but
Yeah.
there's some fundamentals that should from whatever vantage point you're at, there's certain things that if you're at a certain vantage point you would see, right? And
Exactly.
there's some conflicting,
Just like grabbing
where
the
they're
underside of the wheel.
conflicted is problematic, is what I'm trying to say, that I can't get out. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
So
And
okay.
so just because you like somebody's art or are in love with something they do, like I don't know, I don't really want to name names just because,
Yeah.
but like let's just say you love somebody's art or music and it makes you feel awesome, but they're a really horrible person, which I actually found out one of my favorite musicians was just a totally rotten sociopath, and it took me a while to step back and say, okay, this is the truth.
Hmm.
I have to accept this. I can still like their art or music, although it does kind of ruin it for me. But hey, that's okay. There's lots of other music out there. Lots
Right.
of music I love. So, but we do need to hold them accountable, just like everybody else. Just like if Kai had never become famous and wasn't this big internet sensation that people thought they could make money off of, would he still be afforded the same sort of dismissal of his
Right.
actions,
Right.
and that's
I
the
have to
question.
agree. I actually, that's an excellent question.
Yeah, and that's what I've been agonizing over, not just pondering, but like seriously agonizing over. And then we were going to do this live chat earlier, and so this gives it longer in my head to you know
To
think about.
stew,
Yeah, to
to
stew.
marinate.
to
That's me
marinate.
too.
Yes,
That's me
to
too.
make a beautiful
Yeah.
broth.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Nobody
uh
wants to be up in my brain. I'm pondering like all kinds of things all the time. So yeah, no, I get it.
yeah. So in my notes I wrote, do we think if we hold them accountable, will they stop making art we like? Do they have that leverage on us? That's another
Mm,
interesting question that I came up with. I don't know
interesting.
the answers. I think we
I
should
don't know
all.
the answer to that one either, but it is,
I, I
we got to consider it. We should be thinking about this.
exactly. I think we should all ask ourselves these questions and come to our own conclusions, because I definitely have the opinion that Kai is guilty as sin, uh, that he's an evil guy, all that stuff. But I have a bias and I have a clouded judgment as well. So, am I right? I actually kind of doubt it. I think there is somewhere in between. There's a gray area. I'm blinded by my own experience, by my own filters, by everything. And you have to understand that, like with the eyewitnesses,
Right.
we could be watching the same thing. Like, let's say we're watching the sunset,
Hmm.
and um, they asked me, what did I see? And it's like, oh man, did you see just how the sun was hitting that cloud? And I would love to paint that. I was thinking about my brush strokes and how I could mimic that effect on a painting I'm working on. And like, I'm just totally absorbed in how acrylic paints work on canvas, or something like that. And you might see, oh, but didn't you see there was this beautiful fish floating under the water in the lake, swimming around, and it caught a minnow, and it was like one of the coolest, or, you know, I don't know
Right.
what you like to focus on, but it could be
I
something
probably
just
would have been
totally different.
focused on, I wonder how I can recreate that myself.
Okay.
So, because I
Yeah.
do have a bit of the,
Yeah. You watched Bob Ross and now you think you're a painter. Like,
I took art for 4 years. So,
oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
but no geometry apparently and all of
No,
that. Uh,
I took geometry. I'm just not good at it.
I think I think we should meet in person sometime, and I'm going to have to give you a geometry lesson and
No, I don't
show you
listen.
just how beautiful it is,
No,
because
I don't give a
you're
rat's fat
missing
kneecap about
out.
no damn geometry.
You're missing out. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. There's only a few things that I find truly beautiful in this world, and one of them is playing drums, and another one is the geometry and how it relates to all the arts. Playing drums, painting, drinking. Oh, oops, that one slipped out. Um, Drinking and playing drums, the funnest thing ever. And yes, that beats the one you guys are all thinking of. Beats it. Beats it. What can I say? Um, but yeah, so I want everybody to uh, who's listening to not take my word for it. That was my take on it. That's what I see through my filters. But really go into the recesses of your own soul if that's not too painful, because I know it's painful for a lot of people to have that kind of self-reflection and to go deep inside yourself and look and try to look at yourself and the world in an honest way. But is Kai really a hero? I don't think so. So your question, is he a hero or a villain? I'm going with 100% villain. And that's looking at it through my filters. So, is there something that I'm missing? Is there a lot of information I don't know? Of course.
See, I don't see it that black and white. I think that he's both. I think he committed a villainous act that turned into being somewhat heroic. His being a villain ended up saving a couple of women. Now that's with that specific
Well,
situation.
sure, but like with Francisco said, the guitar player guy, that's like starting a fire and then being able to put it out, and then everybody claims you as the
Right,
hero. And
right.
in
I
my
mean,
opinion, even worse than that.
I just
But
I I don't have enough information, verified information. See, I have to
none of
listen.
us do. That's the frustrating
The thing
part.
of it is,
We're trying to get the whole story, and like,
with McBride, this is why I discount, or I have to put Francisco or whatever his name is out. I can't. His allegation of what Kai said is directly refuted by scientific evidence, and that's a problem for me. So that's
that's
why
not a
it's
problem for me, because I have certain friends that are, I don't know them that closely, but I call them a friend.
hey, Leslie,
They get on the internet, they know how to get on the deep web and stuff like that, and they talk about substances and drugs and stuff that they can buy, and some sort of synthetic drug, like all this stuff that I don't know what it is, but they do, and there's a lot of shit out there, and it's also kind of why I stay away from them, because I'm like,
mhm,
God, I hope they don't slip me something,
right,
like if they're
right.
into that world and know it, and I'm ignorant of it. But apparently, there's a lot of stuff out there that is not going to show up in a toxicology test, and
Well,
I could be wrong. So, like, I'm asking you if you have the time and you're interested to look into it.
I will look into it, but this is the thing. Um, the story is that, and nobody is disputing this. It would be it, Kai is not a chemist, okay, and he bought a joint from a gas station. Which, listen, that's a dicey proposition to begin with. But anything that you buy, if somebody is selling a joint at a gas station, all right, they're not moving heavy quantities, and what I'm saying is anything that would have been
And just so you
in
know,
a
this
joint
is the
like
first
that,
I've heard that that's where they got the joint.
yeah,
I
it,
was under the impression that Kai had it the whole time.
no, so in my opinion, logically, anything that would have been that could have been laced or could have been used to lace that joint would have shown up in a toxicology.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I just happened to read this. I have not been looking at chat, and I just looked up at chat. And Bowling with Cotton Balls asks me, "Coolest reviews. How long have you been married? And do you have daughters?" Well, first of all, I've never been married, and second of all, as far as I know, I don't have children. If I do, I would like to know. But and second of all, I have to follow that up with, what about my vibe made you think I was married? Because there's lots of people that they have the vibe, and I assume that they're married. Like they just have that their married vibe. So I'm curious what made you think that, and why you're asking me if I have daughters specifically, because well, all right, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm just curious why, and I hope you're not criticizing or
I just I just think that's because I've been doing true crime for a long time, and I find it's when I will listen to somebody's story. Like I listened to his his recounting of what Kai told him, right? And
Mm-hmm.
but then when toxicology came out, and he didn't have anything in his system, then it I'm not saying that he's lying. It's
All
possible
right.
that Kai could have
All
told
right.
him that. You know what I
Let's
mean?
let's say that the the joint wasn't laced at all.
Mhm.
Uh, just for argument's sake, as they say,
Right.
I may have allegedly smoked some weed in my life, and I will just say that I don't know how people do it. I can have like a tiny bit, and that's all right. So like now I have to come out and say, yeah, I've smoked a lot of weed in my life. I can only have a little tiny bit at a time.
Right.
I haven't smoked in a long time, and like being so we're doing this live, I like especially didn't. Um, it's so potent for me. I don't
Right.
know how people do it. Like I see people like taking these big bong rips and shit like that, and I'm just like, I don't know how you do it. I can only have like a tiny bit, and it is super potent for me. Um, it's enjoyable up to a certain point, and after that, it's just beyond me. Um, and I know quite a bit about hypnosis as far as like healing and that kind of stuff. And you go
Mhm.
into like a subconscious part of your brain, and there's ways of making people very suggestible and all that kind of stuff. What if it was just weed and McBride is a very suggestible person? What if Kai knew how to manipulate him? What if the story about the Virgin Islands is true and McBride was crying and he said, "Hey, listen, I was a little bit forceful with this girl. I feel terrible about it. Like maybe I went too far, but at the time, my hormones and emotions
Right.
and that kind of stuff, like not that that excuses it, but
Right.
like just put yourself in his shoes. Maybe he was just, um, you know, maybe he was drunk, maybe he, whatever, but like he did something in the
Right.
moment and he regrets it and Kai knew exactly how to manipulate and suggest and say, "Well, if you truly feel bad about that, like maybe you can ascend. Maybe we're both ghosts." He was talking about something about like ghosts were
Right.
invisible. You could drive right through that truck and no one could see us. Like maybe he knows, and I know this, and I know I could use it for evil purposes. Like I know how. Like so, I'm talking here. What if I drop my voice down to here? Like, what if I just tell you something and I tell you some sort of suggestion? Well, I screwed it up. So like you probably snap out of it at that point. Like,
Right.
so listen to sorry, I'm getting a little bit,
No, I
uh,
know what you mean.
but
But
I'm
here's
getting
the
a little
thing.
bit emotional right now. But there
Yeah.
are ways to use your voice, your inflection, your body language, all that kind of stuff. You can make suggestions. I have done it like myself, like not for like telling somebody to commit a violent act, but I'm just like,
Well,
hey,
what if,
maybe you should give me that $5 bill. And
right,
they
but what
do.
if coolest
And then I'm like,
is,
dude, I'm just kidding, dude. You can have your $5 back. But I've done that. Like I've done
right,
that. Like I just messing with people.
but what
So I
if,
think it's a very real thing.
right, but what if, see, it seems like there is a history with Kai of um, um, being very hypersensitive and watchful for predators due to being a homeless youth. All right.
Oh, I think
And
so. And
so what
yes,
if the
I
more
think
like
so,
this
actually.
is to me, this to me, in my opinion, I guess this is a scenario that seems to me more likely. What if hearing Jet McBride's story about what he did in the Virgin Islands, maybe Kai has he's a what do they call them? An Avenger, where
Yeah.
he heard of
A
him being a
social
predator,
justice
and
lawyer
he
bullshit.
he's like, this dude is bad, and
Yeah,
that's,
taking it on yourself. Yeah.
and maybe you know what I'm saying. I
Oh, absolutely. I know. Well, I know people like that. Yeah.
I'm just there there I
No,
something is missing from both sides of the
I
from both sides of the
I agree with you
story.
100%. There is something that a lot of people are hiding. Absolutely everybody's hiding something in this whole story. Kai's definitely hiding something. The people making the Netflix documentary are definitely telling a very specific, careful side of the story. They're hiding
Right.
something. That
But
the
they
trial
didn't do
not
it with
being
Kai's
public.
permission. Kai wouldn't work with them. And if he was
Yeah, so
yeah, but it's, I think that had a different takeaway from the Netflix than I did. I
of
think
course we
that
did. Of
you
course we did.
took it as Netflix tried to make Kai out to be a good guy, and actually
No,
I feel like
I didn't.
Netflix.
No, I don't think they
Oh,
were trying to
okay.
make him out to be a good guy. I think they were trying to they were embarrassed that they fucked up so bad on that first interview and the way they viewed him the first time that they doubled down on it and they were like, "Oh, well in 2013, he was a fucking hero. He was so fucking good." And then all of a sudden, like he just snapped and it must have been Kai's story, the essay, and then he turned bad and he did a bad thing and but nobody could have seen this coming. It wasn't that Kai had something to hide and he fooled us. Absolutely not. No way. We're
See,
not
I
stupid.
actually think that
And I think they
that's
doubled down.
was the question that they were posing to the
It
audience.
was at the very end in a sort of manipulative way, in my
I guess
opinion.
I just didn't take it that way at all. I sort of thought
Exactly,
it
and
was more of
that's
us.
cool.
It
I'm
was a
glad you
way.
didn't take it the same way I did.
It was a way for us to question, like,
I
did
think
we?
I think
Did we?
Netflix does that a lot.
Yeah, but I think that this is my thing with Kai. I don't think it's all that black. It's black or white. I think there's a lot of gray in there.
I
And
agree with you that there's a gray
granted
area.
that Gaffney does not have a record, but that doesn't mean
Galfy.
Galfney. Is it
No,
Galfy?
Galfy. Just I don't want to correct you on your own channel, but
No, it's
it's
okay.
spelled
Galfy.
Galfy.
Okay, Galfy does just because somebody doesn't have a record doesn't mean they're innocent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
So
Galfy probably wasn't all innocent in it either.
we don't.
Um,
That's the problem,
but
and
that was the vaguest part. Vegas, vague. Yeah, um, that was the grayest area of the entire documentary. They don't go into what kind of person Galfy was or his background. And I was going to research it, but I just sort of ran out of time. Once again,
right.
you granted me quite a bit more time, but I have
Well,
a
I mean,
lot
you
of
have
things I
other
do.
stuff to do. I mean, it's not like you're supposed to just be focused solely on this live. You're going to
yeah,
do at some point with Jen Lu.
after this is over, I'm going back to writing a totally awesome metal album.
Good.
I'm focused on writing like some really, in my opinion, great music. I'm drawing off of 9 Inch Nails quite a bit.
Oh wow.
Once again, the whole
Which
musician,
era of 9 Inch
just
Nails?
everything that I can
All of
soak
it.
in. But
Okay.
my favorite song ever, and I have to give a shout out to Ixy, IXI, for those that play piano or want to learn. Like I've been playing piano for a long time, so like I don't want to admit this, but like I fucking suck at piano so bad.
Yeah.
I want to get better at it. I'm
piano's
getting
hard.
better at it, but she
Oh,
is
good.
phenomenal. And The Perfect Drug came out. The song "The Perfect Drug"
Right.
came out before the movie Lost Highway, and the song is featured on the Lost Highway soundtrack. I have tried to learn to play that song, and I've tried to look up tutorials. She finally somehow got a hold of some isolated tracks, and I was actually able to learn some of it. I'm still working on it, so I've learned like the first 2 chords of my favorite part, where he goes like, "Feed me."
Right.
And then that's the bass line, and then he comes in with that, "Without you, Without you, everything falls apart. Without you, it's not as much to not as much fun to
Right.
pick up the pieces. And
Right.
yeah, so I ruined it, but
You didn't ruin it. It's
the emotional backing to that, like even to this day, I think it's one of the most beautiful things ever written. Watching her play it on piano and really understanding the notes, God bless her heart. It's brilliant. His music theory is spot on. He's a brilliant guy. Once again, like there's some controversy behind his
Bye, Mo.
actions.
I'll be over there in a minute.
Oh, no, Mo.
Mo's she has a premiere.
Yeah. We all have to live our lives. Oh, and there was another comment that I wanted to reflect upon real quick. But before that, like, I just have to say, IXI, look her up on YouTube if you guys like playing piano or just are interested in music theory. I'm going to do a video reviewing her because she seems like a beautiful person and she is so good at piano and understanding music theory. And I just love her already. I hope that doesn't sound weird because, like, in Greek, there are 5 different words for love, whereas in English, it if you use the word love, it automatically sort of means something. There's 5 different words for love in the Greek language, so I'm meaning it in a more distant sort of way. So I would definitely consider you a friend, Jenlu, but
thank you.
I'm not. I would never say, like, if somebody said, "Oh, like, is she your close and personal friend?" I would say she's a very cool person that I feel an attachment to, like, I feel a connection to. But no, I've never met her in person, and we've never actually talked on the phone or anything like that. It's always been in a very public space. So I would never try to misrepresent that. But yeah, like, you're awesome.
Thank you. Well, I think you're pretty awesome too.
I will go live with you and A Curious Rose, and so far that's been it.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I
Oh, no
appreciate
problem.
that. Thanks for coming tonight.
Just being
I
honest.
just want to wrap it up a little bit because I do want to get over there to Mo. We
all
try
right.
to all
Sure.
support each other over, and she's
Well,
got
of
a
course.
premiere. She waited
Well,
for me.
where are we going next? I'll be a spaz in the chat.
Rottweiler Investigations.
Oh,
is
yeah.
where we're going
I'm
next.
sub to her channel.
Yeah.
I know.
So she's going to do it.
So-
she's got a premiere. So yeah.
So once again, I would say I know who she is, but in reality, like, I
Right.
know that she goes by Momo and her channel's name. And
Right.
that's really all that I actually know.
Yeah.
Just real quick,
Anaphylaxis
says not everyone is as affected by it as you. Coolest reviews. So I guess my question is, what am I more affected by? And
I think it was about the weed.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I will totally agree with that. To me, it just, like, it fucks me up. So yeah.
Let me
Not that I mind indulging every once in a while, but not a big weed guy. I used to be for a long time, and that was probably not a good thing. But
need to
but all right. So we got to wrap this up. So
I gotta wrap it up.
Thanks
for coming up.
What are our reflections on the whole topic? Like one last ending scene here, which I actually didn't write any notes on. So it's up to you, Jen.
I think
you're on the spot.
Takeaway is that
The takeaway is
watching a documentary is great. It gives you a good overview, but it's definitely not the entire story. And if you find something interesting that, and about a documentary, you ought to look a little deeper if you can. Because I think that with this situation with Kai, I think there's a lot of gray areas. I think that there's a lot of missing pieces and things that we just don't know. And so I'm not prepared at this point to judge him harshly, and say that I know exactly what, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I can't say that he's not telling at least part of at least part of the truth at this
I
point.
think he's telling a lot of truth mixed in with his lies.
Right, but I'm talking about the specific incident that occurred on, that Saturday night that ended with him, you know, with a man being
Killing
dead, and
Galfy.
now he is, and now he's serving, like 57 years in prison. There's, um, I think that I think there's more to this story. And when you were taking your break, I was saying that, Netflix or whoever actually, because Netflix just bought it, but whoever actually did the documentary and did the research, I would encourage them to do a follow-up and to try to look into more of Kai's background and stuff like that, because I'd like to know where he came from and what happened to him.
Yeah, I would too, for sure.
So
Just real quick
yeah.
though, you're saying that people outside of Netflix did the documentary and then Netflix bought it. I
Isn't
wasn't
that
actually.
usually how it works?
I'm not exactly sure with Netflix. I thought they actually paid to make certain documentaries and all that
Usually
kind of
it'll say
stuff.
a Netflix exclusive, but regardless,
But
whoever
another
is
one of those
doing
instances
it,
where somebody does all the work, they fire
right?
them right before production and then take their name out of the production and just leave their own name in. That
Yeah, we're
kind of
never
thing.
gonna find that darn yellow cupcake chick. I don't know how
Oh yeah,
Netflix did Kai's, but
Ezra
whatever. There should,
McCandless is
yeah,
another
there
one of
should be
those
a
people
follow
that I
up.
think is pure evil and just can't be redeemed.
There should be a follow up. I'd like to know. I'd
Yeah,
like
there
that
should be.
there should be a follow up.
And
So,
here's another thing, Jen, and the people in chat may not be as aware of this, but I have a feeling that you and I are really aware of this because we both do videos and we do production and all that kind of stuff. Every video we do, we have a ton of information and footage or just whatever it is, or things that we could do, stuff that we've written in our script and we think, no, this doesn't work for this video. We have to leave some stuff out.
right,
However, there is a lot of deliberation in the story that, say, Netflix or anyone else wants to present, and even in my videos. So you go. I re-edited that my Kai video today because I thought that was appropriate, and I am definitely editing it in a way to make you see certain things that you might have
hmm,
missed before. But in this case, I feel like it's a side that's not represented very well. A lot of people on YouTube really try to paint a picture and they leave it out. So there's a balance between how much you can leave in. Like if you're doing an hour, because the documentary's like what, 2 hours max. It's not even 2 hours.
right,
And there's so much information and they want to sell a story. They want people like given their, what is it, $8 a month or whatever to keep on Netflix. So they don't want
right,
to insult their audience. They don't want to give them what they don't want, and uh, and anymore it feels like certain things are shoved down our throat. Like, oh, like you should like this, like we won't go into that, but like, if we
Good
back up,
night, bowling with cotton balls. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Good night, bowling. It's
no
okay,
problem.
babe. Good night.
If we back up 10 years ago, people actually did sort of care about giving their audience what they want and not just what the story that they want to tell. But they're still
Right,
trying to tell a story,
right,
whether through deliberation or just because there's not enough time and you have to decide what you can and can't put into the video or what's a distraction.
right.
Because
No, I
let's
agree.
let's face it, if I'm covering Nine Inch Nails and then I go into, oh, but there's this other band that's really similar that I like better, like let's say, because one of my favorite bands of all time is Brain. Oh, it blocked it out. What do you know? Deftones.
Oh,
one of
yeah,
my
I do
one of
like the
my
Deftones.
yeah, one of my favorite bands of all times. And then I'm like start talking about that, and people were there because let's say, like, so when I want to learn how to play the perfect drug on piano like that, I'm
Hmm.
getting there. I've started, and I'm getting the chords down and how to play it and stuff. But that's not the time to talk about another song. I'm trying to learn that song. And
Right.
they're trying to tell that story and that side of the story. So it is a balance. And sometimes it's through deliberation and manipulation. And sometimes it's just because they don't feel like that's appropriate for this particular story.
Right. I
And,
get you. I get you.
yeah, and that's another thing that people should really ask themselves, and not take my word for it, not take anybody's word for it. Like, go into their own soul and ask themselves their gut feeling. Is this something that somebody's saying to try to manipulate me, or do they actually care? Am I actually worthwhile, or is Kai starting with this because he wants to butter you up for justifying his behavior in the orchard and cleaving uh, McBride's head in?
Right. I get
Do
you. I
do
get
we
you.
know? Yeah. So that's my closing thoughts.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming tonight. It was a good
Well, thank
show.
you for
I had a
having
good
me.
time. You're
This has been
welcome.
a pleasure and an honor to actually be on your show, because I think
Thank you very
I've been watching your show
much.
and commenting for a long time, and I love what you do. Um, don't necessarily love all the stuff you cover, which I've said
Right.
before, but I just want to emphasize that point because I stick around because I think you are incredible at what you do, and you
Oh,
understand the
thank you
structure,
very much.
you understand how to socialize with people, and you know any guests that you have, any people in chat, you really know how to balance everything, like your way
Oh,
of doing
thank you.
things. And once against the structure, you have a beginning, middle, and end. You know how to do all that stuff. It's phenomenal.
Oh, thank
um,
you so much. I
I,
appreciate
I
that.
better I better shut up about it now. Maybe I'll articulate my thoughts in an email later. But
All right.
but you do an excellent job, and that's
Thank
why I
you
stick
very
around.
much.
And
Thank you
you're
very much.
awesome.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. Well, good night, everybody. I guess we're gonna wrap this up, and I put the link to Mo's channel in the chat, so go over there and check out her interrogation videos that she's got going. It's the George Birch case, so it's a continuation. So thanks everyone for being here, and if you haven't done so already, give your girl a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Y'all take care. Stay safe out there on these YouTube streets. And I will see you all tomorrow. It's going to be a busy week for the ward. So, all right. Good night, everybody. Bye.